Hey. What's up, everyone? Oh, man. I got something I gotta do here. Sorry. Docs. Bring a chat up. There we go. Restream channels. There we go. Let's check. Check. There we go. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Normal America Show. I'm your disheveled host, robnoerr. Good to be here. Earlier than normal, but I'll explain my situation here, what I'm doing earlier than normal, and how I may have screwed over a good friend of mine. Whoopsie daisy. You know, it takes a lot being the best conservative populist streamer on Twitch. Though, am I the best? I don't know. Depends on what you're looking for, I guess. If you're looking for a graying beard, sometimes a good sense of wit while also getting anger at times, sloppy pirate hat, then yeah, why not the best? I know this, I kick the shit out of all those lefties I debate, don't I? It's good to be here. I hope everyone's doing fine. We'll probably not have many people here to start because I'm streaming much earlier than normal, but that's okay. That's okay. Hope everyone's having a great day. I know I am. I'll let people know why I'm here early. So I was supposed to do a show with LCTRFan tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I was like waiting. I messaged him like 20 minutes prior, like, we still good for tonight? Haven't heard anything. And I'm like, it's unlike him. So let me make sure I got my dates right and my time right. And so I did. I checked. And I don't think he'll mind me. There's nothing torrid going on with this conversation. He was like, how about Thursday at 8 p.m.? And my response to him was, that should work for me. I'll let you know for sure after I talk to my wife tonight. Whoops. I never responded after that. So I don't know. Maybe because I never responded, he was like, oh, okay, then it's not happening. So totally my fault. I forgot. I said I wanted to check with my wife and then never got back to him. But if he does pop on, we'll jump to that. I like doing the shows with LCTRFan. I think LCTRFan's a great streamer, great conservative. And I thought, the shows that we were doing looking ahead to the 2022 midterms were great shows. So if he does hop on, I think you all will enjoy that and we'll jump to that. Otherwise, I did promise everyone I'd be on here at 8 p.m. today. So here I am. So I hope everyone's enjoying. Achilles says, the Twitter meltdown has begun over the Fetterman thing or just in general? Or, oh, you're probably talking about Elon Musk. Yeah, it looks like, with the Musk thing, I don't know. We'll just talk about whatever the audience wants today since I was planning on doing that show with LCTRFan. And it's probably not going to happen. When it comes to the Musk thing, I'm not going to say I've never made predictions that were wrong. I have. Everyone does, if you're predicting things. But, I was always up in the air about whether or not the purchase would actually go through. It seemed pretty evident this week that it was actually going to go through. But previous to that, I was like, I don't know. There was a lot. Like when he first said, I'll buy it, and then there was a lot of rigmarole. But there were an awful lot of people that were convinced he'll never buy it. He'll back out. I guess he could still back out maybe in some way, but it looks, everything I'm reading saying, that's it, done deal. He was speaking to them today. He's the CEO, he bought it, and that's that. So, we can talk a little about Elon Musk if you like. We can go in that direction. I thought this story last night that I touched on is actually incredible, where you see all these people on Twitter that are crapping on Justice Alito, saying that they feared for their lives after the Supreme Court unprecedented leak of the Dobson decision, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and just how it's, it's kind of crazy that all of these lefties are basically just letting the game out, right? Where it's like, yeah, good. Oh, you're afraid? Blah, 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 blah. It's crazy. They are the people that are violent. Yeah, Adam and Sitch. Adam was on my chat the other day and said that they'll absolutely have me on the show. I'll message Adam right now. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it. Oops. Spelling error. Oh, boom, boom, boom. Who's on Twitch tonight? Who could I argue with? This would be a good night to argue with people. Why not? All right. Oh, Dylan's on. Talking drama. Yeah. LCTRFan is on. Let me message him. Can't see him right now because, for goodness sakes, there's an ad for the new Call of Duty. Oh yeah, that's that. Woo! Good Call of Duty.
PlayStation.
Even right. Of course, he's far right. The leftists are afraid of him. Dude, he's like he's not even close to far right. That's like calling Mitt Romney and John McCain far right. That's like calling like. I mean, it's just absurd. I got a more explosive clip if you want a more heated debate. All right. Thanks. I'll check it out. It's different, right, Pam? Right. Yo, robnoerr's in the house. What's up, Rob?
Okay. All right. All right. We good. LCTRFan doesn't want to. Sorry for the silence there. I wanted to mute him. I don't like. I wanted to mute him. I don't like. I'm ripping other people's streams. Anyways, who else was on? Let's see if we could harass someone else. I'm really important, son. He likes to stay in his bubble. Anyways, sorry about all of that. So, yeah, if you're just tuning in, I was going to do a stream with LCTRFan. Got lost in the shuffle. Where's my costume? This is it, baby. Pirates fan. I got to give more of a frown. Progressive Brat, she still stream? Make friends with non-smoker? I don't know who that is. Max Rose says Adam and Sitch suck. Only do it if I want to grow as a stream. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I'll talk about this just briefly. I basically have zero interest in the drama shit. The drama that like I mentioned this the other day, I've been peripherally involved in the slightest amount of drama. I just don't really give a shit. If it ever comes up for me, it's because we're in the context of debating a political issue and someone says some fucked up shit to me and I'm like, all right, I'll give it right back to you. But that's about it. You know, I do want to grow my channel. I do. And part of the way that you grow is marketing yourself and interacting with other people. But I got to be honest. One of my weak suits is I'm not good at selling myself. I don't have connections. I was talking to my friend Andrew from the Crucible the other day here, who runs Comfy.Stream, which I'll talk about Comfy here in a minute. But I was talking to him, and I was telling him Andrew likes wading into the drama. Andrew likes fighting with the groypers. He likes getting into the drama with left-wing streamers. I don't really give a shit to do it. I just don't care. Pre-production planning. Yeah, I wish I had a producer. The problem is I don't make enough money to have a producer. I'll talk about that in a minute. So a lot of streaming nowadays is just, oh, did you see what this guy did? Did you see this streamer is alleging some sexual assault? Did you see what this guy did? And for me, a lot of that's like, I don't begrudge anyone talking about it. I just have nothing to add. Like when it comes to that, I have like the least interesting takes. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. And so, and the other thing is, I was telling Andrew, I feel like I'm sort of in a unique spot in that I have a full-time job, I have a family, so I don't really have time to keep up with everyone else. I watch politics stuff as sort of a hobby, and because I find it entertaining and important. I don't watch a lot of other streamers, I'll catch some of LCTRFan stream or some of Sparky stream, or, I'll watch videos from my friend Drone Tech or Sarah Kane. And that's about it. Other than that, I'll watch some Tucker Carlson. I'll watch some Jake Tapper. I'll watch some like Rachel Maddow. I see clips, just stuff to get a feel of what's going on out there. And then I read articles, most of the time through Twitter, I'll see articles. I follow left and right wingers. And so when it comes to a lot of these characters like Adam and Sitch, I don't know them well. I just don't. And people recommended that. Hey, thanks so much, Gizmo. People recommended. That's funny, Aftershock. People recommended that I, reach out to Adam and Sitch, and I did. And they said that they would be interested in having me on, and that was the last I've heard. But it's sort of something that I've dealt with. I don't know what it is about me. I think I'm a likable person. I think, not to brag, but I think a lot of these big left-wing streamers don't want to deal with me because they're afraid if they actually have to talk politics, they're going to get wrecked. But it's the right-wing streamers that I find interesting, that don't want to have me on their show, or I've reached out to over and over. And it's like, and I'm not talking big people. I'm not talking like Andrew Tate. Of course, who am I? He's bigger. He's not. He doesn't know of me. But I mean, like people I've been peripherally with, like, I've never been on John Burke's show. I've never been on Lauren Southern's show. So that's fine though. I don't mind. But I do understand that if I'm going to grow my audience, I have to do other shows. I have to put myself out there. So I'll keep trying. But that's all I could do. I can't change who I am. Yeah, the Mr. Girl drama shit, I have zero interest in. I just don't. I don't care. I just don't care. I have no opinion on it, like at all. It's like high school. Like, oh, did you hear what so and so said after gym class? Like, okay, whatever. By the way, how's that inflation? Yeah, I'm gonna start doing some in real life stuff after the new year here. On that note, a couple things to say today. One, I got my new phone. Hey, I did it. I have the new iPhone. This is my old phone. I was using this iPhone X. Now, if you ever noticed when I streamed through my phone, this piece of garbage, the speaker's all blown out of it. Only one of these speakers works. When I talk into it, like the microphone portion, it sucks. It's just an old phone. It lasted me 5 years, though. I had no problems with this other than just it's starting to shit the bed here in the last 5-6 months. So I figured I had some money saved up. I thought I'd have to get a phone like 2 years ago because my screen froze at one point, but then there was a simple fix. So I'd been saving money up for a phone, and I got it's an iPhone 14 Max, I think is what it is. And I was just testing today, and I actually figured out how I could use Restream on my phone now. and the quality of the camera and the sound is pretty good. So that'll give me the ability to stream, I think, with that in real life out at some events. And, I live near a college campus, so maybe I'll go there. I used to be an employee of that university, though, so I don't know. I might be burning some bridges to show up. Yeah, I agree, Achilles. I agree that's what goes on. So that was it. Here's a fun story that you may all appreciate. So last night, I got different hats that I wear. I don't know where last night I was wearing this new hat I got. It's a fitted hat. I really like it. It's from a local farm, Zockerl's Farm. It's blue and white. You go back to my video last night and see it. I don't know where I put it today. So we were going to visit Courtney's dad, and I have a flag, or a hat I wear sometimes with the American flag on it, and it was sitting on the kitchen table. So I just put it on, and I'm wearing my hat like all day. And so we visit, and then we leave, and Hank's in the car seat, and Courtney is like, hey, stop off at Aldi's. I want to pick some stuff up for dinner. So I stop off. She goes into Aldi's, and me and Hank are jamming, listening to the radio, and I go like this. I pull my hat up. And I have it would be above this eyebrow, like a straight line, bright orange, like bright orange going up my eyebrow. Here, what had happened was he had been at the table coloring, and he ground up an orange crayon, and it smeared in the inside of my hat. So all day while I'm sweating wearing my hat, I look like a total asshole with just it's like, and I wonder, like, granted, I wasn't anywhere in public really. It was pretty funny. And I was like, the first thought, I was like, what is it? Like, it could be anything. I'm like, is it blood? Hope it's not poop. But no, it was just crayon. So Mr. Hank got me today. So got a new phone, and Mr. Hank got a good one on me. Aftershock says, can you give me your thoughts? I find it weird how a rep will be winning in the House or vice versa, but the Dem winning in the Senate. How is that? I feel pretty much all voters are going to be voting down ticket. It's an interesting question. So the best example I could give is Pennsylvania here. So not necessarily Senate versus House, but Senate versus House, you could see how that would work because House isn't statewide, right? So each district could be made up differently. For example, the way Pennsylvania works is there's basically 3 cities. Erie, which is a small city, it's up north by Lake Erie. And then you have Pittsburgh, which is on the west, and Philadelphia, which is on the east. Everything in the middle of Pennsylvania, they call it Pennsyltucky. It's like red. It's rural America. But Philly's a big city, and Pittsburgh's a decently sized city. And so what you'll see is a district that's in the center of Pennsylvania. Like, for example, I ran for District 12. District 12 is the most conservative district in Pennsylvania. I mean, it's Republicans win in District 12 like Democrats win in places in California. Like, that's how red wing it is. But you wouldn't know that if you just look at statewide elections. It's like, well, Pennsylvania's blue. Well, right, because the population's so big in those cities, and they vote reliably blue so often. And so that's how you could get, like, for example, someone in one of these rural districts easily win as a Republican, but then a Senate candidate lose. Now, the better question is statewide to statewide, right? So governor and senator, both of those elections. So for governor, the Republican candidate's Doug Mastriano here in Pennsylvania. And for senator, it's Dr. Oz. And so the question would be, and this is what's showing right now, most of the aggregate of polls have Dr. Oz slightly winning or basically close to being tied with John Fetterman, which is unbelievable. And then you have Mastriano, which the same polls are showing are down 2 to 3 points or sometime bigger. How could that be? Who are these people that are like, well, I'll vote Republican for Dr. Oz, but I'm going to vote Democrat because I don't like Mastriano? And Aftershock says that no matter what side you're on, you're thinking the other side's insane. Well, that's what the 40%, or that's what 90% of the voters on either side think. But the election, and this is what's so troubling about something I talk all the time, about sort of all of these institutions pushing for one side. The thing that's difficult to understand is, in order to have unfair outcomes in an election, you don't need to sway millions upon millions of votes. So if you were cheating, you wouldn't need to fake 1 million ballots. Again, if we look at the 2020 election, basically it was decided by less than 60,000 votes in 3 states. If 60,000 votes go from Biden to Trump in 3 states, Trump's president. So that's, now granted, how would you know that's all you need to begin with? A different story. Maybe you stop counting in the middle of the night and determine how many you need. But nonetheless, I'm not saying that happened, just saying there are ways that get it. But that's not how it works, really. Right? Oh, Crisco's here now. Thanks. Bust out the fishing rod. I hear you. Getting a little cold. I've never done ice fishing. So what happens is there are people that are moderate or independent, like 15, 20% of the people that will vote, and they're willing to vote for Republican or Democrat, and some of them might be like, I feel like I'm a Democrat on abortion. I feel like I'm pro-choice, but I feel like their policies are bad for the economy and bad for crime. And so they're feeling out each individual candidate. So that's what happens. So if you get a candidate that's particular, like for example, it could be that Democrats would have won Pennsylvania, but enough people would be swayed that Fetterman's unfit for office. So you might have Democrats that are like, oh my goodness, I would have voted for Fetterman if he didn't seem medically unfit. So now I'll vote for, and there's always things like this that could occur, right? One candidate in some of those races is seen as extreme. Mastriano is just too extreme. So even though I'm Republican, I can't vote for Mastriano. And what we're seeing, this is actually a good topic. This is something that I would enjoy talking about. If you've been following this, I actually like Mastriano. Mastriano was my pick for governor. Now, is Mastriano perfect? No, no one is. I'm not perfect, right? I don't think, I say this all the time, if you're a free-thinking person, you'll never find someone who totally agrees with you. So it would stand to reason you'll never find a politician that you agree with everything they do. But I think Mastriano is pretty good. I think Mastriano was one of the most vocal people against lockdowns here in Pennsylvania. He was in Harrisburg as a state senator, I believe a state senator. So he's fought against lockdowns. He's been leading the charge on sort of corruption that he sees at the state and at the federal level. They're smearing him because he attended the January 6th protest, but hasn't been accused of any sort of violence. I still would not be surprised to see Doug Mastriano charged with a crime before the election. I wouldn't be surprised. Honest to goodness, I wouldn't. But he represents sort of fighting corruption as the Republican candidate, whereas Dr. Oz, to me, represents the sort of establishment Republican Party. Now, I'm still voting for Oz because Fetterman's terrible in a litany of ways, even aside from his stroke. But that's why I campaigned more. The equivalent to Doug Mastriano in the Senate race would have been Kathy Barnett, who I cheered for. Or maybe a similar but less extreme version would have been Carla Sands, who I liked. But what's happening is there are all of these Republicans, allegedly, we'll see how many, that are Republicans for Shapiro. And the biggest example of this is Karl Rove. So Karl Rove is spending money and doing ads right now saying Fetterman's too extreme. Don't vote for Fetterman, vote for Dr. Oz. But vote for Josh Shapiro. He's not like Fetterman. So Karl Rove, neocon, Republican, is actively campaigning for Democrat Josh Shapiro. And we don't see it in my circle here, right? It's not a very common presence on online media. This is more of an old school type of voter. I saw this with Trump somewhat, where I talked to some older folks that were like, I just find Trump, he's just loathsome. He's just loathsome. So even though I've never not voted Republican in my last 30 years of voting, I can't vote for a man like Donald Trump. He's so loathsome. And you're like, what? Like, you're going to vote for the Democrat? Like that stuff does happen, though. And I think that it's very irksome to me, if that's a word. I don't even know. Does anyone remember when I did this panel? And it was actually a good panel because it was a panel that I set up. And the panel was me, my friend Carlos, Saldivar is a political consultant, my friend media, works in media, my friend Todd Bartley, who is a reporter out of Williamsport. Us three used to do a radio show out of Williamsport. And then joining us was Joe Stearns, who is a business owner out of Williamsport. He's a brilliant guy. And a man by the name of, who was the last person we had? Oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank right now. But we had a county commissioner, I believe. Goodness, I can't think of his name. I'll think of it here soon. That's terrible. I've talked to him a million times. He's a good guy. But I'll remember it later. Getting old, man, sucks. I need some ginkgo or something. But one of the things that I was going on at the end of this about was I was infuriated because this was during the primary, and the county commissioners, right, like the people involved in the Republican Party at the county level and at the state level, they don't like Mastriano. They never did like him. And it basically, the way they're articulating it is, well, he didn't reach out to us. He didn't call us and say, hey, can you help me? Can I help you? And they didn't like that. Don McClure, was Perry County. Now, Don's a good guy, right? And Don's like, I'm still going to vote for Mastriano. I'll still do what I can to help him get elected. But it's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. I feel that Mastriano, his campaign is basically an outsider campaign. And part of what he's saying, and it's something that I ranted about quite frequently, where were the Republicans in Pennsylvania when we were locking down? Where were they? Where were they when they were changing how we vote? Where were they? Where were they when Tom Wolf, our Democrat governor, said there were two Pennsylvanias, one for white people, one for black people, effectively calling Pennsylvanians racist? Where were the Republicans? I was writing to them. I was on my show saying, can any official stand up? Anyone? And there were a handful. One of them was Doug Mastriano in some ways. Russ Diamond, who did my show, state level politician, he spoke up. There were others. But the official party, like at the national level, my congressman, he didn't say anything. Pat Toomey, our senator, he didn't say anything. So one of the arguments I have when I talk to my friend Carlos, we talk a lot off stream, probably once a week. We spend a couple hours talking about politics. And you'll have to excuse my language because I'm going to swear here a little. Basically I'm like, yeah, if I was running for office, I would tell those people, fuck you. I don't need your help. You're the fucking problem. You haven't done shit for the people of Pennsylvania. Sit down. That's how I feel. Now, does that mean every single person involved in the state level politics hasn't done anything? Of course not. I'm sure there's great people. But as a body, what did they do? I don't remember my county Republicans mounting an effective comeback to lockdowns that were devastating their constituents. They didn't do shit. I was out here every day. I was out here in early March when Trump was saying, oh, yeah, lockdowns are a good thing. And here I was saying that's terrible. Here I was telling all of you live, I'm writing my Congress people, what are they doing? How could they let this go? But where were they? So you're damn right if I ran, I'd be like, and it's not just that that's how I feel, but also it's effective running, right? Because one of the messages, I was explaining this to my mother-in-law today. She watched the debate with Fetterman, and my mother-in-law is not someone who I would call overly political, and she's a voter that I think would probably lean Republican, but could definitely be persuaded. She is the type of voter that will watch two candidates and say, I like that candidate. He seems likable. He talked about a couple issues that I like. I'll vote for that, which is fine. There are a lot of voters like that. There's no shame in that. And she asked me, she said, yeah, I thought Fetterman did terrible, but the one question I had was, why did Dr. Oz say several times, I'm not a politician? Wouldn't that be a reason to not vote for him? Because in her eyes, she's looking at it like, if you were picking someone to drive your race car and someone kept saying, well, I'm not a race car driver, it'd be like, okay, I'm not going to hire you then. And so I had to explain to her, I was like, listen, these things are well thought out and they're focus grouped, or, there are reasons for it. And the reason he's saying I'm not a politician is because there is a lot of populist momentum, right? There are a lot of people really mad at our government right now in Pennsylvania, Republicans and Democrats, left and right wingers, right? And so to say, I'm not part of what you're mad at. I'm not part of that group that locked you down. I'm not part of that group that caused inflation. I'm an outsider. That's what he said. And she's like, oh, okay, that makes sense, right? But that's basically Mastriano's campaign. Now, the irony is Mastriano is not an outsider. He's been involved in state-level politics. But he's criticizing sort of the establishment. And so he's setting himself up as an outsider. Now, regardless of what thank you so much for the follow. Regardless of what he really thinks about the county commissioners or, the fundraisers and et cetera, perceptually, he thinks it's advantageous to him, and I agree, to be like, I'm not your same old Republican Party. That ain't me. The feckless people that'll just roll over for the Democrats and agree with them on the important shit like lockdowns. I was against the lockdowns. Now, for me, that's exactly the message I want to hear. Good. There needs to be radical. Yeah, like you said, tired of the same old Republicans. Tired of them. Career losers. Really good at being the minority party. Don't do anything when they're in the majority. What are they saying about the people locked up January 6th? What are they saying? What are the career politicians? They signed, the Republicans voted for the massive spending bills. They voted for the fucking lockdowns. They're voting to send money to Ukraine. I don't want someone who's like them. Now, words are cheap. We'll see how people govern when they're in there. But as far as messaging, that's a message that I like. Is that the message that'll win? We'll see. But anyways, going back to that discussion I had with Don McClure and Carlos and Todd and Joe, I basically was like, listen, if you're telling me that there are people working for the Republican Party in Pennsylvania at the county level or at the state level that are pissed off because Doug Mastriano didn't take their phone call or Doug Mastriano didn't come to their dinner, their fundraising dinner, and so therefore they're not going to vote for Mastriano, the problem then is not with Mastriano, the problem is with those people. That's the problem. Now, you might be saying, these are a bunch of names. I don't know Mastriano. I don't know the people Rob are talking about. But this problem persists through the Republican Party throughout the country. And the problem is this. When they thoroughly controlled the party, when the party was George Bush's, when the party was Marco Rubio's, when the party was Mitch McConnell's, when the party was Mitt Romney's and John McCain's, I started to really become interested in politics. My first presidential election was 2008. Ron Paul, baby. That's who, still my all-time favorite politician, Ron Paul. I watched him get screwed over 6 ways from Sunday in the primaries. Constantly screwed by the Republican Party. And then the Republican Party, once Ron Paul was out of the primary, this was the message they had for people like me. Well, okay, you had your chance, your guy didn't win, but now you got to come together and be a team player and vote Republican. That's what you got to do. That's what their message was. And even back then, as a young man, we're talking 2008, so I would have been 24. Even back then, I knew, I was like, if the shoe ever comes on the other foot, it'll be totally different. And that's exactly what we're seeing. All of a sudden, when populist conservatives are winning, like Doug Mastriano, or like Blake Masters, or like Lee Zeldin. Well, I don't know so much about Lee Zeldin. I'll take that back temporarily. I hope he wins, don't get me wrong. What's McConnell doing? Pulling money out of those races and chipping it into Lisa Murkowski again in a ranked choice voting election, so she's actually running against a Republican as well. Lisa Murkowski, who is in effect a Democrat with an R next to her name. Karl Rove is running ads against Doug Mastriano. By the way, the same is true of the Democratic Party. Just so we're clear. I actually had Jimmy Dore like one of my tweets yesterday. Jimmy Dore sort of had his beginning of his falling out with a lot of the progressive lefties, or so-called progressive lefties, under his Force the Vote campaign. Now, I wasn't an expert. I didn't follow the drama very much. But basically, the idea was this. I believe it was 2018. And basically, the Democrats had won the House. And so they got to pick the Speaker of the House. And it was going to basically, by default, be Nancy Pelosi. And Jimmy Dore was like, instead of picking the Speaker of the House first, we should force a vote on Medicare for all, because he knew that many Democrats would vote against it. And then the people would be able to say, okay, here's who we want for Speaker of the House. Someone who... Because his argument is, we voted for these Democrats because we wanted these progressive policies. So now put up or shut up. Put it up for a vote and let's see how they vote. And the Democrat people were like, no, you can't do that. That'll make us look bad. That causes division. Don't do that. That's what they do. They say, no, you just got to suck it up and vote for us, and eventually you'll get your way. Pinch your nose right now. But hey, when your side wins the primary, we'll be there for you. And then when the populist side wins the primary, all of a sudden they're like, nah, we'd rather vote for the establishment person on the other side. That's what they are. Now, you might say, Rob, would you do the same thing? I don't know. I'd find it a tough sell to vote for any Democrat nationally because that party's so horrible right now. But I understand the impetus. But it's them that have told us for years, oh, now that your guy lost the primary, now you got to suck it up. And they were always full of shit. They always were. They'll take their ball and go home. It's the same people that in secret wanted Donald Trump to lose that are Republicans. The John McCains, the Jeff Flakes, the Lindsey Grahams, the Paul Ryans. If Republicans win the midterms, I'll be happy about that. My happiness will last until I go to bed and then wake up the next day and say, okay, now get ready to get screwed over by a Republican Congress that won't do anything effective. I hope I'm wrong, but that's what my mindset will be, and that's what I'll be pushing for. Who cares if you win and then you have a bunch of people that govern that just go right along with the corruption and the bullshit? Oh, I would vote for Tulsi over Mitt Romney in a heartbeat. Absolutely. That's right, Achilles. Not many Republicans talking about the January 6 people, are they? So I find it, it's an interesting question you asked there, Aftershock. So, there are probably a lot of establishment Karl Rove type Republicans that will vote for Dr. Oz and will vote for Josh Shapiro instead of Mastriano. Because that's what establishment level Republican people, at least on some level, are saying. And if that's not indicative to everyone of how just winning the midterms isn't going to change anything on its own, and it's basically meaningless if we don't have Republican leadership actually affect change, then I don't know what is. I don't even know if impeaching Biden helps that much. I would push for it. I would. But that's a shallow victory. Defund the FBI. That's the start. They won't do it. Start committees that release proof to the American people of the corruption of the Biden administration and the FBI. That's it. But, so yeah, that's what's going on. We'll see what happens here in Pennsylvania. My prediction is I still think, and I talked to LCTRFan, we'll be doing our show sometime before, maybe next week here. My prediction is still going to be 52 Senate seats and probably picking up, 20 to 30, I don't know, 25, 30 seats over the halfway in the House. Oops, give me 1 second. I'm checking something else. So I'm on Comfy tonight. Let's see if I get the chat up and running here. Huh? There it is. There's the chat for Comfy. Well, yeah, head on over to Comfy.Stream. It helped me a lot. That's probably the best place to watch me right now. If you donate money to me, I prefer you donate through Comfy because I get a bigger percentage of it. But you're fine on Twitch and YouTube for now. I'll make that big push here soon. I will be. Masters, Oz, and Walker will win. I think that's true. I would predict that. Did I start a different feed in YouTube today? Yeah, I briefly did a test feed on YouTube using my phone. Oh, I get... Second. Oz is part of the World Economic Forum. Probably. He's establishment. He's better than Fetterman. What's the grounds for impeaching Biden? How about quid pro quo to start with? Isn't that why they impeached Trump? Joe Biden contacted the government of Saudi Arabia for political reasons and asked them for a political favor, and now is threatening canceling aid that we give them. How about connections to a hostile foreign government of China and lying about it? How about encouraging the charging and arresting of Mike Flynn that was corrupt? How about attempting to create a ministry of truth to censor people's First Amendment rights? Want to talk about Biden a little? Remember fact checkers? You remember those? Remember when Trump would come out and say, biggest audience ever? I can't do a Trump impression. I'm terrible at it. Remember that? And they'd be like, fact checkers here, fact checkers. This was not the biggest audience ever. There have been several audiences greater. Also, we're going to go over to Tim, who has a fact check on Trump's claim. Yes, this is Tim here. Trump said no one respects women more than him. We rule that is pants on fire. That's a lie. Now, we're going to go back to the studio. We have another claim here. Yes, Donald Trump has just said that he's the funniest person in Washington. That's not true. There have been a litany of comedians in Washington. We have our fact checkers working round the clock to look into these. Oh, boy, those fact checkers. They were on it, man. Good work. Remember, there were people saying, when you talked going into the 2020 election, you had all these people saying, Trump has told 387,416 lies since he's been in office. We've kept track of them all. The fact checkers kept track of them all. They did it. Where are the fact checkers at now? Isn't that weird? Here, let's hear some Biden quotes today, huh? Biden quotes. Let's listen to this man talk. By the way, one of the funniest things I ever heard was Biden saying that he found the performance of John Fetterman impressive. Right, makes sense. Here we go. Let's hear what Biden has to say today. Hey, Biden's gonna do an interview. Everyone, remember, who was it? It was like Glenn Kessler at the Washington Post was like, well, we took away our fact-checking stuff with Biden because we trust that he'll tell the truth, unlike Trump. Here we go from today. Ready?
So, economic growth is up, the price of inflation is down, real incomes are up, and the price of gas is down. Folks, continue to spend, but now at a more stable pace than during our rapid recovery last year. So, economic...
Yeah, every single one of those is a lie. Let's go.
Economic growth is up. The price of...
Economic growth is not up. Since Biden's been in office, growth is down significantly.
Inflation is down, real income.
Inflation is up tremendously. It's over 8% year to year, and it was very high his first year as well.
Are up, and the price of gas is down.
It's not true. Gas was like $2.30 something on average when Biden came into office. Now it's over $3.50 or something like that. I'll buy it. The Biden simps in the audience. We'll get to you in a second. Here, let's get some more clarity. See, they're defending it. Nah, technically, GDP was up this time, blah, 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 blah. Okay.
Down from over 5.
You ready? You ready? Let's get a little more specific Biden talking about how great he's doing economically. You ready? Here you go, Biden fact checkers.
Today, the most common price of gas in America is $3.39, down from over $5 when I took office. Today, the most common price of gas in America is $3.39, down from over $5 when I took office.
That's not true. The average price of gas was actually $2.34, I believe, when Biden took office. I had that saved somewhere here. $2.39. Fact checkers, anyone? GDP was up this time. That's true. GDP was up in this quarter was up a modest 2-point-something%. Very small. That was after 2 quarters of negative growth, where GDP actually declined in the previous 2 quarters under Biden. However, that doesn't show the economic. You would expect a modicum level of GDP growth just because that's the way things go. GDP is always over time growing somewhat. The fact that it's growing so slightly in this quarter after 2 negative is a very bad sign. It's also a bad sign because it means that in order to get out of this, we're going to continue to see a raising of interest rates, which might be necessary to stop inflation, but certainly going to cause an employment crisis. And let's see if these numbers get revised in the future like they always do after the midterms, right? We'll see. There's Biden, though. Where's the fact checkers? Isn't that weird? One second here. Just reading a message I got. Again, if we looked at inflation the same way, if we looked at inflation the same way we did in the 80s, we'd be well over 15%. Remember, I talked about this a lot. Unlike other people that consider themselves to be experts on the economy, I don't consider myself to be an economic expert. I think there's many people that understand the terminology and the sort of specifics of a lot of these things better than me. But I got a great bullshit detector, and I know when we're being bullshitted. Like, I knew locking down the country would harm the economy significantly. I knew printing 25 to 50% more money would absolutely cause inflation. I know that. People with more terminology can explain to me why that's not the case. But I knew it would, and I was right, predictably, as I knew it would be, right? One of the things that's hard to put into words is, the idea that I told you what will happen will be the numbers on inflation will be so bad that when they're less bad, they'll declare victory. It's the same with gas prices. Biden repeatedly says this. Gas prices are going down because of me. Gas prices went from $2.39 to $5. They doubled. And then when they fell back to $4, Biden was like, victory. I did it. And the Democrats went right along with it. And all their followers are like, you see, prices are going down because of Biden. What? Excuse me? And when they want you to believe when the prices go up, it's nothing to do with Biden, but when they come down, it's because of Biden. Same shit with the inflation numbers. If inflation goes up, like, this is how ridiculous it is. You know, if inflation went up 100% this year, so from today in October 2022, if October 2023, we saw year-to-year inflation of 100%, 100%, and then the next year it fell 20% from there, they would declare victory. They would be like, greatest deflationary period of all time. 20%. That's fantastic, they'd be saying. Wow, what an achievement. Excuse me? It's still 80% higher than it was when you started. That's incredibly high. That's historically high. But they'll brag about it. It's very simple. They do this shit all the time, right? COVID numbers, right? New York, like after 5-6 months, we heard Dr. Fauci was asked, which state's doing it best? New York. All these left-wing, Cuomo's killing it in New York. He's doing great. Ironically, he was killing it. He's doing great. Cuomo, that's who's doing great. No shit, you killed off all the old people right at the beginning. So they have the highest numbers of deaths in the nursing homes in the first 2 months. And then the third month, when not as many people die in the nursing home, they're like, oh boy, we're doing great. No shit, they're all dead. But to them, they were like, and it's still to this day, it's a talking point that infiltrated sort of left-wing circles still to this day. When you start comparing, you're like, okay, if you're right, lockdowns were so great, how come Florida is doing almost equal to New York? Actually slightly better using most metrics. Why? And they'll say, almost every time you bring this up, this is one of the things they'll say, well, if you take out the first couple months of New York, why would we take out? Those deaths don't matter? Is that what you're telling me? Inflation has a lot to do with the president in that him and his party massively embraced lockdowns and massively devalued our currency through printing, and they engaged in a war against fossil fuel companies. Right. They canceled jobs, told people they couldn't go to work, and then when they said, okay, you could go back, they're like, job growth. We did it. And don't be fooled. Republicans were in on this shit too. Trump endorsed lockdowns. But that's the Democrats. They were almost all for it. It's just, it's amazing how they gaslight you with this stuff. Now they're out there saying, the Democrats are literally out there. Whitmer said in her debate the other day, kids were only locked up from school for 3 months. One of the other candidates I heard say, the average student only missed like 7 days of school. It's just bullshit. We didn't want to lock down schools, just like they're saying, we never said defund the police. Isn't it funny how all the positions that so many of these Democrats take, when it gets close to election time, they have to backtrack on them. If these are such great positions, why do they embrace them and then backtrack when it comes time to vote? John Fetterman, all of a sudden now he's in favor of fracking. That's interesting. After he was signing letters in 2016 to completely ban it. Also, I haven't heard a big national conversation from Democrats about how fracking's good and we need to, it was a mistake to close the pipe. I didn't hear any of that shit. They were all for it. Climate change, right? But now that we're closer to elections, they're like, yeah. Well, we never said defund the police. Oh, excuse me. I support the police. I think we should heavily fund the police, in fact. Old Scotty, not buying your bullshit, right? I absolutely don't buy the apologetics for the Democratic Party and Joe Biden. First off, Joe Biden's not responsible for anything. He's an old man with dementia that basically people are running his campaign from behind. Those people that are running his campaign from behind are people that have been running the Democratic Party, people like Ron Klain, people left over from Obama. They supported these lockdowns and wanted even more lockdowns. Many of the areas that had these lockdowns were in Democrat-controlled states. Absolutely, the Democrats are responsible for it, even more so than the Republicans. Doesn't mean the Republicans are off the hook, but definitely the Democrats are more responsible for it. I will not accept this revisionist history that says that Joe Biden and the Democrats aren't responsible for the terrible reactions that we had to COVID, for the massive amounts of lockdowns, for the massive amounts of money printing. It's bullshit revisionism and no one's buying it. Sell your shit somewhere else, buddy. Not happening. it's not really Biden's fault. If only he was there under Trump. Fuck you. And I love these people, right? I love these people now that are like, oh, yeah, okay, inflation and shit. There was this thing called COVID. Like, what was he supposed to do? Well, if I'm not mistaken, Joe Biden told us on the campaign trail he was going to shut down COVID, not the economy. He had a plan. That's what we were told. And where were all these Democrats that are like, well, you can't really blame Biden? Where were all them when the reason that Trump lost was because of his handling of COVID? Oh boy, all those deaths were Trump's fault when he was there. It was all his fault. Everything negative that happened surrounding COVID, that's Trump's fault. Trump. But then when it's Biden there, it's like, well, the things are out of his hand. What are you going to do? Yeah, if I ever get elected president, what I'm going to do is day one, I'm going to be like, executive order for one day. The minimum price for gasoline is $100 a gallon. January 21st. Everybody tomorrow pays $100 a gallon for gas. And then the day after that, I'll be like, okay, the executive order is rescinded. And then the rest of my campaign, I'll be like, the first day that I came in after office, gasoline was $100 a gallon. Now it's dropped to $4 a gallon. A 96% decrease in the cost of gasoline. That is fucking amazing. That is historical. What an achievement. You think the media would let me get away with that? That's right. By all metrics, Biden did worse under COVID than Trump did. What was Biden's plan to fight COVID? We've talked about this. I talked about this in my debate with Destin. He doesn't have an answer. All right, let's stack the records. If it comes from deaths under the same amount of time, the first 9 months that Trump dealt with COVID versus the first 9 months that Biden dealt with COVID, where were there more deaths? Under Biden. Okay, so if we don't look at that metric, if we look at what were the tools they had to fight it? Under Trump, it was a totally new thing. And at the beginning, even his experts like Dr. Fauci in February were saying the flu would be worse. There were no medications. There were no vaccines. Now, you might say, I think the vaccines suck, blah, blah, blah. But Joe Biden's almost sole plan to deal with COVID was lockdowns and vaccines. So the entire plan that Biden had when he came into office, remember he had this big, we're going to get 1 million vaccines a day out, which was the number that was basically being hit when Trump left office. So what was Biden's big plan? Vaccines. Okay, he came into office and it's all there for him. Now what? And he still bungled it up. He still did worse. Sounds like Biden's plan fucking sucked. That's what it sounds like. That's his big plan, remember? And then this is what the debate devolves to. Well, it wasn't really their policies and things like that. It was the signal they were sending to the American people and how serious to take it. That's why Trump was worse. That's why there's so many anti-vaxxers. Really, need I go back and look at the statements of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and what they thought about the vaccine coming out under Trump? Because they said they wouldn't trust it. That's what they said. Trump never said he wouldn't trust the vaccine. In fact, one of the things Trump supporters are most pissed at Trump about is all he does is talk about how awesome the vaccine is. And he won't acknowledge that there were times that it seems like that the vaccines weren't good for some people. So the only people that were actually anti-vax were Kamala and Joe Biden when it comes to their administration versus the Trump administration. And it's other than that, the things that Trump said that supposedly caused COVID to be so bad and spread was mask hesitancy and hesitancy to stay locked up at home. But we have no proof that the mask or lockdown saved lives anyways. And even if you're going with, well, the signal of the president. Remember, one of the first things Joe Biden did was say, I'm going to have an order saying that you have to wear masks on federal property. And literally the day he signed that order, he was outside the Lincoln Memorial taking photo ops with his family. Drum roll, please. Without his mask on. So under what metric can we look at that Joe Biden did better than Donald Trump for COVID? He had the good fortune of being here when the What was the third strain? You had Delta, then Omicron. What was the third strain? That's basically was non-lethal, was very less lethal. I don't even remember the name of the third strain. That's it? Well, it petered itself out. People got natural immunity. Yay, Biden did it. He did it. Biden said the other day, the pandemic's over. Then yesterday he said, worldwide pandemic. Did you see that? There's a man with clarity on the issue. Oh, I forgot this one.
The American people are seeing the benefits of this economy.
Here's Biden telling us families had more net worth today than they did before the pandemic.
And the American people are seeing the benefits of this economy that works for them. Families have more net worth today than they did before the pandemic.
Remember, this is what I talked to you yesterday about the Fetterman thing, right? Where it's one thing to say, yeah, Fetterman got his ass kicked, but I'm still going to vote for him. But that's not enough for them. They have to say, Fetterman did great. And you're a bigot for thinking otherwise. Still all over the media and news today. It's the same people that are saying the economy's doing great. What a stupid message. Probably millions of Biden voters out there struggling mightily right now. So they look to their dear leader. What will you do to help me? Well, do you think help's coming if the guy you're expecting to be your leader is telling you everything's great? It's doing great. You're better off now than you were before COVID. And where are the fact checkers? Where are they? Semi says Fetterman can't form a good sentence, but I'd vote for him over us. That's your right. I think you're wrong to do so, but that's at least an honest answer. Trying to bullshit me that Fetterman did good in that debate is nonsense. And that's what so much of our media is doing. And if you can't see, like, I want to go back to a point that I said earlier. I forgot to address this. When I was talking about, like, listen, you don't need to sway millions of people. You need to sway thousands or tens of thousands out of millions of voters. And if our media and the people controlling our narratives, the people in social media, the people in media, all these people that are sort of in charge of shaping the narrative culturally or politically, if they're willing to bullshit you so much that John Fetterman's a good debater and he did good in that debate and that the economy is doing great right now, all they need to do is convince a couple thousand people of that. You don't see the problem with that? But I guess they're just fortifying the election, right? I guess. It's amazing that elections are as close as they are with how corrupt and how much of a bunch of lying assholes the people shaping these narratives are. But someday it won't be close if we don't change. Someday whoever Google wants will win every election. And then the lefties will cheer until they realize, oh fuck, these people we elected don't give a shit about us either. Too late, asshole. Of course, most of them will never have that brain. They'll just say, tell me what to think, Google.
This is a global health emergency.
This is Biden in October 25th versus Biden in December. Ready? 1 month difference. Ready? Here we go. Let's hear what he has to say about COVID.
This is a global health emergency. If we really want to put COVID behind us, we have to keep up the fight together.
Is the pandemic over?
The pandemic is over. We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it. But the pandemic is over. This is a global health emergency.
The pandemic was over, but right, let's go in order. We need to relieve student loan debt, and Joe Biden's going to do it via executive fiat, and his excuse is going to be because of the pandemic. That's why we have to do this. I have emergency powers to declare that the student loans are forgiven because of the pandemic. Then he says, like a couple months later, the pandemic's over. Then he says a month after that, global health emergency. Geez, it's like They just pick and choose when there's a pandemic, when they want to instill their bullshit authoritarian policies. That's right, Soccer Chris. Anyone who looked at the data objectively saw that the Trump tax cuts actually benefited working class people as well. So I think it's funny when I see people that lean Democrat or are just full-on Democrats say, well, you can't blame Biden for all of this bad shit that happened on his watch. But boy, oh boy, were they out there saying, all this shit's Trump's fault. The COVID stuff's all Trump's fault. How? Name me the leader that did a great job under COVID. Even DeSantis had lockdowns and shit at the beginning. He maybe did one of the best. I guess the leaders of Sweden. I'm not saying Trump did perfect. Fuck, I criticize him for the lockdowns. I just criticize him the opposite direction that most of the people do. Criticize him for signing those ridiculous $1 trillion spending bills. Good. I'm glad the DHS overrode the CDC on the handling of the cruise ship off the coast of California. I'm glad. Do we think that one cruise ship is responsible for the spread of COVID in this country? Is that the argument? Or should they have languished there to this day? Still a global health emergency. I guess those people on the cruise ship should stay there, right? Don't care if they use personal protective gear. There is no evidence. There was no way to stop the spread of COVID in this country. It was not going to happen. That's why lockdowns were stupid from the get-go. The only potential lockdowns that could have worked would have been near total lockdowns, which would have been untenable in the United States. You couldn't have done it. So even in the places where we had lockdowns, what that meant was you couldn't go to your local mom and pop store. You couldn't go visit your grandparents. You couldn't go to your job, but you still go to Walmart and stand shoulder to shoulder with people. Still go to Home Depot, couldn't go to the local hardware store, and COVID still spread. So the idea that it's like, damn that Trump, his Department of Homeland Security let a cruise ship in. Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi was saying, go hug a Chinese person. Remember that? Remember that shit? We're not worried about COVID. It's saying it's the China virus is racist. Go to Chinatown and hug people. Anyone remember that? Weird. No one said, I'm pissed about the cruise ship. But man, Nancy Pelosi encouraging millions of people to go hug Chinese people? Geez, that's in the middle of a pandemic? That sounds a bit crazy. Should you be hugging any strangers? Or how about this? How about when a bunch of left-wing scientists told you, COVID's bad, it's bad, but you know what's worse? Racism. So get on out there at those million-man rallies and protest the death of George Floyd. Get on out there. Weird. I didn't see the people that were pissed about the cruise ship saying jack shit when millions more people were being exposed and contacting each other based on bullshit left-wing, Democrat-supported fucking medical professionals. Racism's unironically worse than COVID. Maybe so in the end, huh? But hardly justifies their reason for their voting. All the shit that we were told about Trump that was so terrible was mishandling of COVID. Biden did worse. Well, he'd be a disaster foreign policy-wise. He would be a disaster. The world would be on the cusp of war if you elect Donald Trump. How's that prediction looking? Joe Biden's in private telling fundraisers, yeah, we're on the cusp of closer than since the Cuban Missile Crisis of nuclear war. Russia came out today and was like, Taiwan is China's. China and Russia becoming closer together. Verge of World War III. But Trump was a lunatic that was going to get us into a war. Instead, we had historic peace deals in the Middle East. Trump was going to lock up all the black people and gay people. First Republican president that flew the pride flag at the RNC. Economically, black people were doing better under Trump than they had been for decades before. And Trump, probably to his detriment, worked with black civil rights leaders to pass the prison reform bill. It wasn't everything they wanted, but it was more than they got under Obama or Biden. Yeah, I like Tucker Carlson a lot. Trump was corrupt. He was dealing business. He was colluding with hostile foreign powers. Oops, turns out that was the Democrats too. Meanwhile, Hunter Biden's working with the communist government of China, getting millions of dollars, along with Joe Biden's brother, Jim Biden, and 10% is going to the big guy. And Joe Biden's defense of this was, I knew nothing about these deals whatsoever. We now know that was a lie. Again, old Scotty. Trump was being informed. The medical experts that we were told to trust that were antithetical to Trump, like Dr. Fauci, who were supposed to be the ones in the know of this, were commenting in February of 2020 that COVID wouldn't be a big deal, that the flu would be worse. They were saying in private things like, don't get masks and things like that. They won't help you. And then, despite the fact that Fauci has no love for Trump, when the big bombshell came out of Trump's interview with Woodward and how Trump was saying in private he knew that COVID would be more serious, Dr. Fauci announced that Trump's public statements were in line with what was being suggested by his team to him. In other words, despite what they thought at that point of how severe COVID may have gotten, they had a public message to keep people calm. It's the same, and before you say that sounds like bullshit, it's the same idea behind them saying don't go buy masks, because their claim is the reason we had to lie was we thought that people would panic and run out and buy a bunch of necessities that would end up making the situation worse. But why is it that we say, well, Trump at the beginning of this said it wouldn't be serious and it would eventually end, and we hold him to account to that? Joe Biden said he was ending the pandemic and not the economy. How'd that prediction work out? Joe Biden told us just a month ago the pandemic was over, and today told us it's a global health emergency. Yeah, I'd cut off funding completely to Ukraine. Simple. They don't have a plan. They've admitted, the Washington Post, I covered this last week, in private, officials in the Trump administration and in the military and intel offices are saying, we don't see how either side wins this war. We have no idea how this will end. Russia and Ukraine. They have no idea, yet they're sending billions of dollars. We should be brokering a peace deal, whatever that may look like, instead of ensuring that the conflict ensues by providing a never-ending stream of money and weapons, which are going to be used as kickback. Mark my words, in the next 10, 15 years, you will hear establishment politicians in this country saying, we have to send troops or we have to get involved in some way in eastern Ukraine because there are terrorists there with weapons. We don't know how they got them. We don't know. There's Islamic fundamentalists or there's right-wing extremists. They got these weapons in Ukraine. We don't know how they got them. Am I going to go on Sitch and Adam's show? Yeah, they said, I actually just messaged Adam, as I'm streaming, and he asked what topic I would debate, and I said anything, but I would like to talk about COVID mandates or disbanding the FBI. The vax wasn't tested for transmission. We know that. Now that we know that, we were told over and over and over. Now we're being gaslit. No one ever said that. No one said it stopped transmission. Yeah, right. That's an excellent point too, Soccer Chris. Had to impeach Trump and couldn't vote for him again because he engaged in a quid pro quo. That's terrible. Even though we know that Joe Biden engaged in a quid pro quo in the same country, the Ukraine, with $1 billion of your tax dollars, and has again engaged in a quid pro quo with Saudi Arabia, trying to get them to do a political favor of him to increase production or to stop decreasing production until after the midterms because he wanted his side to win. But, you know, when Destiny's out there doing a Steven Crowder impression, talking to college kids, I heard that one of the things he said was, even if Biden's presidency ended today, one of the most successful presidential terms we've ever seen. Crisis at the border, economy shit, cusp of World War III, COVID still ravaging, fentanyl overdoses, massive corrupt scandals, total incompetence, and health decline. One of the best we've ever seen. That's gaslighting for you. Thousands of people watched my debate with Destiny. And 90% of his supporters are like, Destiny crushed him. In what way? Well, they know Trump did terrible under COVID. How'd Biden do? You know, the things that are legitimately better under Biden, I'll be honest, here's something that's better under Biden. Totally true. Less riots. True or not true? Is that not true? What's up, Sparky? Honestly, give me an honest opinion. Do you think there are less riots now than there were when Trump was in office? It's true, right? Yep. And Lissy, absolutely true. And Lissy, I think, is a Biden supporter. So that's true. Of course, that's because the Democrats encouraged those riots. And I told you back then, that's the Democrats' deal to you. If you don't vote for us, we'll punish you. We'll lock you down. We'll lock your children down. We'll riot. We'll encourage riots. We'll encourage violence. That's what they're doing right now with Alito. That's what they're doing. Alito's like, look, the Supreme Court leak, it was designed to put fear in those of us that voted to overturn Roe. Look at what they're saying on Twitter right now. Not just randos. I just typed in Alito into the search bar. First up, we got Glenn Kirshner from NBC News, former prosecutor. Oh boy, 700,000 followers, almost 25,000 likes. He says, poor Justice Alito. He's bellyaching about how hard it was on him when his draft opinion revoking women's constitutional privacy was leaked, saying how he's looking forward to getting back to normal. How nice for him! Things aren't going back to normal for women! Remember, Tom Fitton says, Alito reminds us Justice's lives are put at risk of assassination by the leak. What's former federal prosecutor say? Well, I don't like that decision, so poor him. Cry me a river. You were afraid you were going to be assassinated and your family attacked. Boo-hoo, says a federal prosecutor. Molly Jung Fast, next one we see. I don't know, Fast Politics, 1 million followers. Says, I love Justice Alito taking away the rights of millions of people and then complaining he didn't get to announce it himself. Is that what he was doing, or was he complaining of the threats, intimidation, and assassination attempts? You see, when Kavanaugh gets an assassination attempt, when Alito says that they feared for their lives, when Scalise gets shot, all of a sudden, I'm told that, oh, it's not a big deal, or all violence is bad, but it's not our fault, blah, 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 blah. Here we get people mocking those. When Rand Paul gets attacked, people mock them. But oh boy, if AOC was in a building that wasn't even infiltrated, my God, she has PTSD and we're all fucking evil. All right-wingers are evil. Next. 10,000 likes. A gruesome reminder, Alito cited law from the 17th century women burners and took our rights away. Sheldon Whitehouse, senator, says, very true, there's a difference Alito misses between committing the foul and calling out the foul. He wants us all to shut up. Not going to happen. Wait a minute. I thought that those that talked about potential election security, all of them were responsible for inciting violence. Trump said go march peacefully, but thought the election was stolen, and they said that's incitement of violence. But when it's the left, when there's actual assassination attempts, they say we should be allowed, which by the way, I agree with them. They should be allowed to criticize. But it's not my standard that matters, it's theirs. Their standard is, nope. There are certain things you can't talk about, or that's incitement to violence. But when they talk about shit, and then people go out parroting their rhetoric and commit violence, they're like, how dare you say we shouldn't be allowed to talk about it? Joyce Aline from MSNBC and NBC, with almost 1 million followers, says, it's the quintessential tale of where we are. A man who cavalierly condemned so many women to death, pain, and suffering is only concerned about a minor inconvenience himself. Yep. Oh, this guy's upset that they unprecedentedly leaked his opinion, and then he feared for his life, and there was an assassination attempt on his colleague. Who gives a shit? We didn't like his opinion. I could go on and on and on. And no one gives a shit, and Lindsay doesn't care. None of the lefties that came on and screamed about January 6th and incitements of violence, none of them give a shit at all. Oh, boo-hoo, so what, an assassination attempt? Who gives a shit? But AOC has PTSD. That's some serious shit. All right, what are all the lefties, what are all the lefties that were, oh my God, Trump incited violence, blah, blah, blah. What are they saying today? Let's check out their stream. What's that I'm hearing? They're talking about, they're not talking about this. They must be talking about inflation. Are they talking? Oh no inflation. Fetterman's poor performance? No, they're not talking about that. They talking about the border crisis? No, they're not talking about that. What's this? Oh, Destiny Mr. Girl drama. There you go. What's with the relationship between Destiny and Mr. Girl today? Should Destiny change the way he moderates his channel and his Reddit channel? Tune in to find out. We do politics. Oh yeah, the bunker bitch, Donald Trump, right? That was okay. No one said he had PTSD. No one said, oh my God, the leader of the free world was forced to flee because of violent lefties were attacking the White House. They said, bunker bitch. That's what they said. And then every time I talk to one of them, right? Oh, that wasn't me. I wasn't doing that. I took the left-wing violence very seriously. I took it very seriously. Oh no, that wasn't me. I never bought into the Russiagate stuff. I heavily condemned the FBI when I found out that they used unverified opposition. I did not have social media at the time. I did not have a social media presence at the time. But I did go, oh no, I was not one of the ones, that was calling out Donald Trump for kids in cages. Now that I didn't call out Biden, that's not a discrepancy. I did not have my social media started the day after Trump was out of office. It started the day after, so I was not around. I did not see any of the George Floyd violence or anything. I didn't see any of it. But I swear I was on panels talking about how bad that stuff was. Fuck you. Bullshit. I can't prove in any one individual, but every fucking person I talk to, they don't give a shit. How about this? How about charges of whataboutism? I saw this. How many times have you heard this, right? You can't bring up the FBI's corruption or double standards or anything like that. That's whataboutism. You can't bring up the Hillary investigation versus the Trump investigation. Double standards, that's all whataboutism. You can't talk about that. But as soon as you start to talk about like, hey, this hospital is offering transition therapy or transition surgery for 12-year-olds, what's one of the first things you'll hear the left say? Every time I see this brought up somewhere, this is one of the first things the left will say. Now do circumcision. Now there's circumcision. What about circumcision? Or if you're like, man, these drag shows where they're stripping in front of children, that's terrible. What about Hooters? Huh? What do you have to say about Hooters? The same people that'll fucking scream whataboutism when you're doing an apples to apples comparison of the FBI's double standard, all of a sudden, all they got to talk about when you talk about surgeries on 12-year-olds is, what about Hooters? What about circumcision? It's bullshit. Yeah, how many, grifting, Lincoln Project, former right-wingers like Jennifer Rubin, I don't know if she was former right-winger, but how many of these people that are out there like, my God, a women's right to choose? Formerly, you could find the tweets where they're talking about Rick Wilson talking about how heinous abortion policies in the Democrats are. Thanks so much for the cheers, Sparky. I appreciate it, man. Isn't that odd? That's right, Chris. You got it. It's everything these assholes do. And I wouldn't even mind it. I'll talk about the difference between circumcision. I think there's a reasonable conversation to be had that maybe we should look at circumcision and whether it's right. There were medical reasons to do it. But that's fair. I will have a conversation. But I'm not going to have a conversation with someone who's unwilling to talk to me about corruption at the FBI because that's whataboutism. All of a sudden get out of this transition debate by saying, whataboutism? And even if you find circumcision to be a total antiquated practice, which is your right to do so, and if you find it to be barbaric, which is also your right to do so, and I'm willing to listen to you, I think there are good points. Cutting off foreskin is completely different than cutting off someone's penis and inverting it in a very painful way that will stop them from having orgasms the rest of their life, stop their ability to procreate, and cause all sorts of other problems. It is completely different. It's in the same vein, but it's way worse. So, I'm sorry, I don't buy your bullshit whataboutisms. That's because you're watching me craze. Go watch someone attractive. Maybe you'll have a better feeling downstairs. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about this at least somewhat tonight. Just the News that John Solomon works for. Fantastic. I think John Solomon's great. To me, he did the best reporting on the Hunter Biden Ukraine situation, and all he got on was shit on for his troubles. How about this story? Did you read this? Democrat blows whistle on alleged ballot harvesting scheme. Florida opens criminal probe. Former candidate for Orange County Commissioner describes widespread vote trafficking operation in Orlando area. Authorities see enough evidence to warrant criminal probe. This is from today. Florida Governor DeSantis' new election crimes units recommended state police open a full investigation into Democrat whistleblowers. Oh, a Democrat whistleblower. So not some dirty Republican. Detailed complaint of a long-running, widespread ballot harvesting operation in the African-American communities in politically important Central Florida. No. Say it ain't so. Former Orange County Commissioner candidate Cynthia Harris filed a sworn affidavit in late August with Secretary of State's office alleging that illegal operations to collect third-party ballots have been going on for years in the Orlando area, where voting activists are paid $10 each for each ballot they connect. Excuse me. She described an intricate system funded by liberal-leaning organizations that dispatch ballot brokers into black communities to pressure voters to turn over their ballots. The $10 fee per ballot is divvied up among the parties who help complete the harvesting. The collection and delivery of ballots by third parties is illegal in Florida. The newly created Office of Election Crimes and Security did a preliminary inquiry on Harris's allegations and concluded there was sufficient evidence to warrant a full criminal probe by state police. The Florida State Department told Just the News on Wednesday. Quote, the Florida Department of State Office of Election Crimes and Securities, the OECS, was made aware of the issue around September 1st, 2022, the department said. After further inquiry, the OECS received additional information related to the allegation on October 17, 2022, and performed a preliminary investigation. Since OECS is an investigative entity and does not have authority to make arrests, the office forwarded the complaint to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for possible violation of Section 104.0616 Florida statutes. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement told Just the News on Thursday that it has received a complaint regarding alleged ballot harvesting in Orange County, which is currently under review to determine if an investigation is warranted. The development in Florida adds an explosive new allegation to concerns nationwide that ballot trafficking is widespread in some battleground states, a claim made famous by the research of conservative watchdog group True the Vote, and a documentary released earlier this year by filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza called 2,000 Mules. Arizona prosecutors have achieved several convictions in that state for ballot harvesting, most recently securing the guilty plea of former Democratic mayor in Yuma County. True the Vote filed a complaint in Georgia alleging thousands of ballots were harvested in the 2020 election, but those allegations have not yet been corroborated as authorities negotiate with nonprofit group for its evidence. A Wisconsin investigation unmasked a sophisticated ballot harvesting effort targeting vulnerable nursing home patients in communities like Racine, Wisconsin. Harris, who narrowly lost her election for county commissioner in August, described to Just the News her years-long knowledge of ballot harvesting in the black communities in Central Florida. She even recorded a ballot broker coming to her home in 2017 to collect her ballot and obtained the script that harvester was given by her bosses to make a pitch for voters to turn over their ballot. So she has video of the harvester coming to her home and the script that she was supposed to read. Old Scotty, with his shenanigans of partisanship, do you think they'll investigate any Republicans? I hope they do investigate all alleged criminal, but not for the sake of you. You could fuck off. Every Democrat that's okay with hiding any allegations of voter fraud by Democrats could kiss my ass. If now they're like, well, in the one place where there is actually a Republican in charge doing something, they better do it even-handedly. I bet old Scotty didn't say fuck all when the FBI was using opposition research sourced by a Russian that they never bothered to verify and were spying on the Trump campaign. Bet he didn't have fuck all to say then, did he? But boy, oh boy, when they're looking at ballot harvesting, this better be directed towards Republicans as well. Do you think they'll do that? Old Scotty, who probably hasn't had shit all to say. About pro-life groups getting firebombed, arson being committed, threats, attacks being occurred, etc., etc. Not shit all to say about that, but boy, oh boy, when the FBI's arresting pro-life people that supposedly push someone outside an abortion clinic and now they're looking at 15 years, he don't have a problem with that shit, does he? Well, I hope they're judicious. I hope they go after the right wing too. Fuck you. Most secure election ever, motherfucker. Republicans didn't do anything. Continuing. Quote, so what happens in our community when absentee ballots are mailed? You, the candidate, or any political party can find out when the absentee ballots are mailed and to whom. What happens is these ballot harvesters. They know which ballots have gone out, and they go door to door and ask for your absentee ballot, Harris told Just the News, No Noise, television show on Wednesday night. Well, in communities that don't look like me, no one does this, she said, referring to white neighborhoods. But in our community, it's kind of like accepted practice that a man is coming to pick up my absentee ballot or the lady's coming to pick up my absentee ballot. In her sworn affidavit, Harris identifies specific individuals who direct and act as ballot brokers and were paid to collect ballots and provide intricate details on how the system allegedly works, along with emails, receipts, video footage, and other evidence. Quote, ballot brokers typically work up to a year in advance, she stated. Ballot brokers visit individuals in their residence and assist the individual in filling out a request for a mail-in ballot. After the mail-in ballot arrives, the voter is instructed to wait for the ballot broker returns to the individual's residence. They're asked not to seal the certificate envelope. In rare circumstances, if the voter has filled out the ballot and sealed the envelope, the ballot broker will take the ballot and then steam open the sealed envelope, the affidavit added. The ballot broker will either correct any votes, if necessary, that were not voted according to their wishes or just throw them out. Harris described how, much as in Wisconsin, vulnerable patients in rehabilitation centers and nursing homes in Florida were targeted for ballot harvesting. For nursing homes, ballot brokers get the list of residents by cross-referencing address with the voter registration list, she explained. The ballot broker figures out the best way to make contact, usually through friends and family that may or may not know that they are part of a scheme. They help the resident fill out the mail-in ballot or just take the mail-in ballot from the nursing home and deliver it to the ballot broker. Harris, who has worked as an election poll worker in the past, said her biggest concern in coming forward is that ballots collected by third parties have no chain of custody, making it easier to commit fraud, such as destroying the ballot or altering it. Quote, it's just utterly ridiculous that people don't understand that once the ballot leaves your hand and it's not placed in the mailbox or not directly given to the supervisor of election, you don't know where it goes. It's possible that they throw them away. We've seen evidence of that. You see the steam open the ballots and then they mismark them. So if it's not their candidate, then the ballot is spoiled. So when people think that the numbers are low, it's really not low. It's just that someone is intercepted before it gets to the proper authorities. In other words, her claim here is when they talk about low voter turnout, maybe it's that a lot of ballots are being spoiled because these ballot harvesters are taking the ballots of people that they don't like, that voted for people they don't like, and they're spoiling them. Harris alleged the Orange County Supervisor of Elections, who held the office for 26 years, has turned a blind eye to ballot harvesting in her community. This has been going on for so long, you have to look at the Supervisor of Elections himself. He's been there since 96. That's 26 years, and there's been a blind eye turned in our community, the people that we entrust to fair elections in the democratic process. It's been flawed for a long time because this only happens in our community. It happens all over the nation, but we are the ones that suffer from it because we're the most disenfranchised. We don't have the resources to fight back, and we don't know how to fight back by telling our story. The Office of Orange County Supervisor of Elections, Bill Cowles, said in response to a request for comment regarding Harris's claim that he is not aware of any issues regarding ballot harvesting, so he is unable to comment on this at this time. The office added if there is any issues that Harris is concerned about, we would recommend her filing a complaint for the state to investigate. After vote ending in the August primary, Harris was in second place with a total of 3,158 votes on election night, which was supposed to trigger a runoff election because the candidate with the most votes didn't receive 51%. There was supposed to be a recount, according to Harris, but somehow she, quote, kept losing votes instead of gaining votes, she said. So when they certified the votes, I was a total of 14 votes missing. I know how to do basic math. I don't understand how you could go down in numbers versus going up. But the story that they told me was that the machine was fed extra ballots, and that's why I was 6 votes ahead of the person that came in third place. Well, if I'm 6 votes ahead of the person that came in third place at the end of the night, how do you lose 14 votes within a couple of days? Florida's had other issues with regard to ballot harvesting over the years. Some other cases. We don't have to read. Most secure ever. Oh, Musk full of Parag. Good. That's fantastic news. It's not that you wouldn't get a fair discussion, Scotty. Put yourself in the position of someone like me. Watching these double standards in the nation's premier law enforcement agencies over and over. And when we have one governor that's like, you know what, I'm going to start doing things. We're going to start looking into what the federal authorities want. And the first response from someone who leans left-wing is like, well, what do you think? Are they going to go after right-wingers? Mm-hmm. It's bullshit. You don't have the same zeal with the double standards we see with our FBI, which is far more powerful than the state police under Ron DeSantis. So I don't take your criticism very seriously at all. It'd be different if you were constantly on here saying, my God, look how corrupt the FBI is. And then saying, but I have fear that I don't want to see law enforcement under a DeSantis administration devolve into just being partisan as well. I agree. I don't want to see it be partisan. I fully support if this committee finds any Republicans that were engaged in ballot harvesting, that they too be punished in the same way. It is illegal. But I'm not going to take seriously and pretend and be charitable to people on the left who are the exact opposite with people with me. And you might not be that specific person, but I'm so disenfranchised and fucking over you people on the left as a whole, basically giving lip service to the corruption of the FBI, that I don't give a fuck. It's the same way I feel about cancel culture at this period. I got to listen to these left-wingers like Vosh go, oh, I was targeted. I had 2 videos removed from YouTube. It was unfair, says Vosh. Let's see if that quote's still up. Mm-hmm. Either removed it or it's further down. Oh, here we are. Poor Vosh. This morning I woke up to 2 fraudulent YouTube channel strikes. One to my main channel and one to my second. I won't be able to stream or post videos on my channel for a week. It's extremely clear these strikes are the project of fraudulent brigading, as I'll explain. That's the left in a nutshell. Never saw a fucking righty they didn't want canceled, but oh boy. No, don't brigade anyone. I don't want anyone brigading anyone from my community. I don't want anyone being censored. Period. It's fucking childish, and it won't be done in my name. I'm doing good, Ankar. If I find out that people that watch my channel heard something I said about something and then went and brigaded them and tried to get them canceled, I won't want any part of you. Go do it on your own. Leave me alone. That's bullshit. Now, we'll see. Let me say about this situation in Florida. It's merely an allegation at this point. It's a woman who's publicly came forward with her name, who's clearly been in a position working the polls in the past, running for office, that she seems like someone that would be in the know. She claims to have the receipts, have recordings, have documents, etc. We'll see. But it could be she's full of shit. It could be. All right, Ankar, one more talk of reporting someone or banning someone, and I'm going to remove you from the channel. Just letting you know, Ankar. That's it. That's the last you'll talk of it here. Done. I'm not going to listen to anyone say, I'm looking for a reason to report someone. Fuck all that. Just telling you. Good luck. See you, Ankar. I don't know how you could be more clear to people. Like, I don't want that shit being done. I don't want it none in my name. If you want to go do it, leave me alone. Don't fucking bring it up my channel. If you bring it up to me, I'm going to tell you not to do it. And I don't want you to keep talking about doing it. Fuck. Well, maybe he was just trolling. Then he could leave trolling. I don't give a shit. People come in just trolling, throwing the N-word too. All that does is get a target on my channel. Why the fuck would someone do that if they like me? It's just stupid. Anyways. But it was the most... Surely that story's bullshit, right, YouTube? Most secure election ever. Right? That's the end of the story. That's what I would do. If I was that woman, this lawyer... Or, I mean, whoever the people being accused of ballot harvesting, if I was their lawyer, I would say this. Most secure election ever. Please censor anyone who even talked about this story. Thank you very much. And then YouTube will be like, we're on it. Gotcha. Most secure ever. Excuse me. Oh, what else do we have here? ABC News is saying a ballot paper shortage could cause problems on election day. Tight supply of papers left little room for error. The acting attorney general in Pennsylvania came out and said, it's going to take us a while to count the ballots. It's just going to take a while. Great. Brazil, tantamount to a third world country with millions and millions of people. They can count their votes in one night, but not the good old USA. Can't do it. Pennsylvania can't manage. New York can't manage. I have a friend named Rational Wrong Think. He's from Australia. Good guy. He used to stream a little with me back in the day. Every once in a while, I like to keep up on news from Australia, shall we? What's Mick Dundee? How's Walkabout Creek today? By the way, still one of my all-time favorite movies. I know that it is a fantastical vision, right? You ever like you see these? I guess you kind of call them period pieces sometimes, but like these sort of geographic or period pieces, right? That'll sort of glorify an area of the world. Australia, Crocodile Dundee. Like for me, that's one of them. Or you see like the movie Gladiator. That's what Rome was like. Rome was probably way shittier than that. But man, before I met my wife and before I had a kid, if you could ask me anywhere that I would have ever wanted to live, it was Walkabout Creek in the time of Mick Dundee. I fucking love it. Just like, that's my people. That's kind of, I had that romanticized vision. So that's what I still imagine Australia. And then reality, what Australia is like is they put people in camps that didn't get the vaccine. That's what the real Australia is. They're not hunting alligators. They're locking up people who don't want to take a vaccine. That's what the real Australia is like, unfortunately. Let's check out some Australian news. Now, let's go to the Alex Jones of Australia, shall we? Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's news.com/Australia. It's their official. It's like basically their PBS. Oh, okay. So not a conspiracy site. Oh, well, from yesterday. ATAGI didn't know about heightened risk of myocarditis in young men until 5 months after Pfizer-Moderna approval. The Australia Technical Advisory Group on Immunization has revealed it didn't know of heart risk until 5 months after approving vaccines for use. Well, that's interesting. Huh. There's no side effects to the vaccine, though, right? So, that's strange. Let's go, shall we? The ATAGI has revealed it did not know about the heightened risk of heart condition called myocarditis from COVID vaccine until 5 months after they were approved. An updated document published by the Health Authority in late September has attracted serious attention this month, as it showed the side effect was unknown to the group until May of 2021. The vaccine was provisionally approved on January 25th, 2021, almost 5 months prior. The revelation raises questions over Australians' vaccine mandates, considering the risk associated with both Moderna and Pfizer jabs, which were heightened by the health body. Quote, a small risk of myocarditis or pericarditis has been observed in people following vaccination with an mRNA vaccine, Pfizer or Moderna, compared with unvaccinated people, the fact sheet read. The dossier points out the risk of heart issues in young males is higher with Moderna than Pfizer. Pericarditis and myocarditis after COVID-19 vaccine have been mostly reported in males under the age of 40, and mostly after the second dose, it read. However, these conditions do not occur in both females and males at any age after any dose, including a third or fourth dose. The recommended interval of 8 weeks between the dose 1 and dose 2 of an mRNA vaccine may reduce the risk of these conditions, compared with the shorter interval. ATAGI now says it's uncertain whether the risk of myocarditis following COVID-19 infection remains higher than the risk following vaccination in the male to the 16 to 40 age group. However, it told this news.com.au the threat of the virus continues to outweigh any risk that comes with mRNA vaccines in the younger population. Now, that's the part that, they still say that the risk of the virus is worse. Maybe, in general. What about in specific? How much risk was a 20-year-old man that was healthy from a serious case of COVID? You see, and that's, whether you could trust the data is one thing in its own right. But what I'm talking about is assuming the data is predominantly true that we're looking at. One of the ways they justify this authoritarianism is to look at it on the whole. So they'll say, on the whole, the virus is deadlier than the side effects from the vaccine that we're seeing right now. That could be true. But that's because it's looking at the mass amounts of deaths of people with comorbidities and that are very old. For example, A look of COVID deaths by age in the United States. From 2019, as of October 19, 2022, if we accept the data, 1,300 people from 0 to the age of 17. 1,300 in a 3-year period. Now, there are problems that have been raised. How many COVID deaths are deaths because of COVID or deaths of people that happen to have COVID? But let's accept, just for the sake of this argument, that every death listed here was because of COVID. Let's accept that. I'm not saying that's the case, but for the sake of argument, let's steelman the position by saying all of these deaths were deaths by COVID. So we'll accept this data as completely factual for the sake of this argument. So from 0 to 17 years, 1,300 people died. More people in that 3-year period probably died in vehicle wrecks, accidents on their bicycle, falling down stairs, other illnesses. So in that population, if we're just looking 0 to 17 and saying, should these people be vaccinated, forced to be vaccinated? We should limit the risk of COVID to that particular group and then look at the possible side effects to that particular group. This is in the US, yes. I don't have the data for Australia. So let's just throw some numbers out to guess. Now, I've done the specifics on this in other groups, but let's just guess with this. We'll just make some guesses, right? Or not even guesses, just hypothetical. Let's say then, okay, so 1,300 died in 3 years. So that's 450 people a year, we'll say, between the ages of 0 and 17. So should we force all of those, we'll say starting at 2 years old, should we force all of those to be vaccinated? What if that would cause 5,000 cases of myocarditis? Would it be worth it? It is similar to flu numbers, Goku. Would it be worth it? You might be tempted to say, of course it would be worth it. Why? Well, because myocarditis isn't guaranteed to kill you, but these are deaths. So maybe of the 5,000 people that got myocarditis, only 50 of them would die. So it'd be worth it. But then you have to ask yourself, well, how many deaths were prevented by the vaccine? We don't know. Now the situation becomes very complicated. And not just 0 to 17 years. Let's look at 0 to 29 years. Less than 10,000 deaths over 3 years. If we go under 40 years, it's under 30,000 deaths. Now, if you go back and you look at this article, now granted, this is US data, but you can see a very, very, very small percentage of COVID deaths were people 40 years and younger. Less than 30,000, less than 10,000 a year. That's less than the amount of people that die from the flu a year in total. That's the 40 and under group. Let's go back to this article. Who's most at risk? Reported in males under the age of 40. So the people most at risk for heart inflammation from this vaccine are the very same people that are least at risk from COVID. Now, that doesn't mean automatically that means that the vaccine wouldn't benefit anyone in that group. It's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying when you're talking about forcing them to do something, all of a sudden the calculus doesn't look the same. Now, if you just, let's go back to these numbers. What they do is, instead of looking at these numbers, like young men, those are the group that's at risk for heart inflammation if they take this vaccine. Let's look at their deaths of COVID. Instead, they say, well, if we look at the whole picture, look at this, 278,000 dead, people 85 and older. So if we lump them in, then as a whole, the vaccine as a whole is less risky than COVID as a whole. Well, no shit. That's the problem with mandates. It's a one-size-fits-all solution, and it might not be right for significant amounts of people. So there might be groups of people that you're intentionally causing harm to by giving them an increased risk of heart inflammation. But you're forcing them to take that. And you might say, well, that's a small percentage. Yeah, but what if it's you? What if you're told you can't go to work and you basically have to be locked down unless you take this medication that on average will be worse for you than it will be better? That's fucking monstrous. Now again, this data doesn't prove that the vaccine would be worse than the risk of COVID to that group. But what it does show is they didn't fucking know when they did the mandates. They didn't know. Again, the article says the advisory board that was in charge of immunizations didn't know until 5 months later that there was this big risk of heart inflammation. That means what this is really admitting is that they had no fucking clue what the risks were before they forced it on people. Who's to say another 2 years from now they won't figure out, oh wait, there were other significant side effects that we didn't know. That's right, we might not know for 10 years. Again, it is different to say this medication is available for your use at your own risk. That's different. I don't have a fucking problem with that, as long as they're honest. If they lie, that's one thing. But if they're like, here's all the side effects we know, but there could be more, we don't know. But hey, if you want to take the medication, go for it. That's one thing. Forcing it on people is another thing entirely. And that's what they did. It's what Australia did. It's what the United States tried to do. Vax mandates, that's monstrous. How do you justify if you find out that you forced people to take a medication for a disease that they had a very slight risk of having serious effects from, but then you ended up, through that medication you forced them to take, destroyed their fertility, caused inflammation of their heart, caused an anaphylactic reaction? How would you live with yourself? Again, we're talking about a disease for people particularly under the age of 40 isn't much more of a risk than an average year's influenza. It is more, don't get me wrong. Your chance of dying of fentanyl way beyond your chance of dying of COVID. No one gives a shit about that. Again, they locked down young, healthy people and then put COVID patients in nursing homes with people with comorbidities. Now we find out the narrative's changing. Even Ben Shapiro came out here and was like, well, he was giving people shit at the beginning. Take the vaccine. It prevents 95% chance of preventing transmission. Who said that ever? No one ever said that. Again, I know there were other people talking about this. I was on this from the fucking get-go. Remember when Joe Biden came out right after he was sworn in and was like, I did the math on it. He was like, your chance of being hospitalized with COVID's like 1 in 400,000 once you've had the vaccine. It's like, right. If that's the case and you have the vaccine, why do you give a shit if your neighbor has it? Basically, the vaccine makes you all but bulletproof. That's what Joe Biden was saying. Okay, then why do you care? You might feel bad. You might want your neighbor to not die. But that's on them. That's their decision. You can't force your neighbor to work out if they're out of shape. You might say, hey, man, you should work out. And they might say, go fuck yourself. I don't want to work out. Bummer. But you're protected. That's what they kept saying. It's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. They're the ones that are hospitalized. They're the ones that are suffering. Okay, that's their choice. But hospitals are being overran. Nope, no, they're not. There might be one or two, but on average, hospital capacity is less filled now than it was pre-pandemic levels. Now Ben Shapiro comes out and is like, oh, I was misled. No shit. By the way, let me say this about Ben Shapiro as well. Ben Shapiro, I watched him at the beginning of the Russiagate shit. I used to listen to Ben Shapiro a lot and watch him on YouTube. I watched him on Joe Rogan saying, never attribute to malice what you could attribute to stupidity. The problems with Russiagate aren't malice. How are you on that one, old Benny boy? How was that prediction? Jake Tapper had someone on the other day and was like, listen, we need to have a why isn't there a national conversation about locking down schools and the damage that caused children? You know, people weren't talking about it, but now that we know. No, Jake, people were talking about it. I was talking about it. Other people were talking about it. It's just that we were censored and told we wanted grandma to die by talking about it. We were right. How many people were forced to take the vax or lose their job? Think about that. It's one thing if it's bad enough if you feel. Now listen, let me be clear here. I want to be totally fucking clear. Like, I'm not saying that this vaccine wasn't right for anyone. It may have been. It may have been right for, on average, people over the age of 65 or 75 or people with COPD. Everything is risk reward. Chemotherapy is basically fucking poison to your body. But if your body's in really bad shape and riddled with cancer, then it makes sense to take chemotherapy. If not, it doesn't make sense to take chemotherapy. Same could be true of this vaccine. Maybe it does significantly limit the effects of the virus. Could be true. And so if your risk of the virus is very high, like you're 87 years old and you have COPD, then maybe it makes sense to have a risk of heart inflammation in the medication to treat it. I don't know. I'm not making that claim. We'll see. I have not seen the data. That's one of the problems, though. No one breaks it down into specific groups of specific risk categories. They say, well, in general, the vaccine's better than the risk of the vaccine's not as high as the risk of COVID. Maybe that's true in general, but what about a 20-year-old that's healthy that's already had COVID? They're among the least at risk for having a serious case of COVID. And I did the numbers on this from the CDC paper. You've all seen me do it several times. I'll put a link up again to that, what I wrote on this. You can go through it yourself. All the sources linked. This is a link to a place I posted called Above Top Secret. But that is me. I'm the Grambler with the Bill Hicks. But now, right? Now their claim is like, well, it had nothing to do with transmission, right? No one said it prevented transmission. That's exactly what they said. Exactly. And now they're trying to gaslight you. They didn't have to say that. Some of them did literally say the words, it prevents transmission. But that was the entire argument, that it prevented or lowered the risk of transmission. Again, I've done this debate over and over with people. No one would accept forcing, I won't say no one, authoritarians would, but very few people would accept forcing medications on people against their will unless it was a public health crisis. In other words, unless they jeopardize someone else. For example, I'm overweight. There probably is not a lot of popularity to the position we should force overweight people to lose weight or not allowed to work or not allowed to go grocery shopping. Why? Well, because the argument would be, well, look, it might be good for your health to lose weight, but the reason we're telling people they can't go grocery shopping is we don't want them to infect other people. And your obesity is not going to infect other people with obesity. So we're being gaslit and saying, no, we never said that. It was never about preventing other people. It was about stopping serious symptoms. If it was about stopping serious symptoms, then we're right back to the argument I made. Okay, then if you took the vaccine, why did you give a fuck if someone else took it? Them getting serious symptoms didn't affect you. And if your argument is, well, because I have to pay for healthcare and you're going blah, 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 blah. Remember that, because when they argue for Medicare for all and shit, that's what I predicted from the beginning when I first heard about Medicare for all in like 2007, 2008. As a young man, I was like, what they'll do is they'll say, okay, their argument is, right now, here's what's going on, right? You have 4 groups of people right now. You have people that are paying for healthcare and using it. And then you have people using healthcare and paying for it. Then you have people using healthcare and not paying for it. Poor people, illegal people. So that means that these people right now that are using the healthcare service and paying for it are pissed because they're paying not just for themselves, but also those people using the service who aren't paying. Because the healthcare service is going to make their money one way or another. So it's like if normally your procedure would have cost you $100 and you go in and get it, that's $100. But if you go in and someone else goes in and doesn't pay, now you pay $200. And those people were pissed. The people using healthcare and paying more for it because there are people using it and not paying, they're pissed. So they needed a third group. And that's people that aren't using healthcare. And they needed them to pay because you can't get blood from a turnip. So the people that can't afford to pay, they ain't going to pay. So you're like, okay, well, we'll force everyone to have to pay into healthcare. Now it'll be cheaper for me that uses healthcare. That was the argument. Did my work require the vaccine? Yes and no. How's that for an answer? My work did require the vaccine by a certain date because of Biden's mandate. So in order to comply with the mandate, they required that you get it. But Biden's mandate was ruled against before the deadline for my company having you forced to get it. So many people that worked at my company got the vaccine against their will. But technically, the enforcement never came in. Medicare for all, who's paying? Taxpayers. And I said, what'll happen is, once we have Medicare for all, this is what would happen. Right now, your health care is your business. But once my neighbor has to pay for my health care, my neighbor might say, you know what? If I have to pay for your health care, maybe I should have a say in your lifestyle. And I brought this up. I was like, wait and see. The government will say, well, wait a minute. Healthcare costs are rising. And now that it's everyone into the same pool paying this, now we may say, we can't let you live that health style. Maybe it'll be banning cigarettes to start with. Now they're causing public increase in healthcare costs, so we'll ban cigarettes. Then it'll be, let's ban sugary beverages. Then it'll be, well, you have high blood pressure, so you have to scan your card when you go to the pizzeria. I'm sorry, your blood pressure's too high, you can't buy it today. Hello from US, Paradis. No, that would never happen, they say. Never happen. By the way, from Canada, how we like that? The death panel's in Canada. Oh boy. Just like we said it would happen in the United States. Do I believe elites took the vaccine? Some, probably some not. Because now their argument is, now that it was, well, we don't have proof, right? Because we've known for a while now, if you take the vaccine, can you still spread COVID? Yep. Did the vaccine stop the transmission? We have no idea. When they wanted to force it on us, there was no data. None. They didn't know. Pfizer's even admitting, we didn't do testing to see if it prevented transmission. And so now what they're going to default to is, we never said that. The reason we wanted to force you was for your own good and to free up hospital beds and to lower healthcare costs. See? Just like they do under socialized medicine. See how quick they went? Same argument. Well, you should be forced to do something that we consider healthy for you against your will because it cost us in the form of hospital beds and money. So therefore, you should be forced to do it. Not because it prevented transmission to other people. But they would never do. Just give them total control over healthcare. They would never do it then, right? $10,000 to pay for funeral costs. I don't know, it's tough. You know, I like health savings accounts and things of that nature. So I'm going to check briefly. If anyone minds, I'm going to head to the restroom real quick, and then I'm going to look on Twitter because I'm hearing it's getting lit. I'm hearing Vija got fired. Vija is the lady that went on Joe Rogan with Jack Dorsey. Remember Vija? She was the lady that Tim Pool was arguing back and forth with. Why'd you suspend this right winger? That was Vija. I heard she got the boot. Good day, good day. I'll be right back. So Vija's fired now. Let's go to Twitter. Someone said it was lit. the first link I put up. Oh boy, good already. Disclose TV, which you should be following on Twitter. Elon Musk took control and immediately fired Twitter CEO, the CFO, the head of legal policy, trust, and safety. This is Parag, who was the CEO, I believe, in exchange with Elon the other day. I commented on this. I thought it was great. Parag says, "You're free to tweet, is Twitter dying, or anything else about Twitter, but it's my responsibility to tell you it's not helping make Twitter better in the current context. Next time we speak, I'd like to provide you with perspective on the level of internal distraction right now and how it's hurting our ability to do work. I hope the AMA will help people get to know you, to understand why you believe in Twitter, and to trust you. And I'd like the company to get a place where we're more resilient and don't get distracted, but we aren't there now." And Elon Musk responds, "What did you get done this week? I'm not joining the board. This is a waste of time. We'll make an offer to take Twitter private." Elon closed Twitter deals. CEO Parag, CFO Ned Segal, Chief Content Vija, who got Twitter to ban Trump, got them to ban political ads. They're all fired. Jonathan Turley, who's excellent, says the departure of former CEO Parag Agrawal is a singular advance for free speech. Agrawal was one of the most aggressively anti-free speech figures on social media. The left is losing their mind right now. I'm sure of it. Again, this is sort of rehashing old news, but let's talk about this deal right now. Remember, the reason that the left is freaking out about Twitter and about Elon Musk buying Twitter is not because they're afraid that they will be censored on Twitter. No one's arguing that. It's that they're afraid they will no longer be able to censor the people they disagree with. All of the, we're leaving this platform, this is against democracy. All of this, it's not because they're afraid they won't have a voice. It's afraid that people they don't agree with will have a voice. That's how authoritarian and anti-democratic many of these lefties are. Their ideas are so bad, they have to rely on censorship and control of information. That's why you see so many of them want to debate. That's why you see in the Fetterman debate, when you heard people react to it, they were like, well, the debates don't matter. Like, none of that matters. What matters is like what the people think. In other words, how they could spin it. That's what matters. I reviewed several left-wing Twitch streamers yesterday watching the Fetterman debate in real time. That's what they said. Let's see how we could spin this. In other words, they don't want people to be able to converse about real thoughts amongst each other. That's not good for them because their ideas suck. They have to rely on censorship. That's why they're so freaked out. Now, Facebook's almost totally in their pocket, and Twitch, and Google, and YouTube, and almost all the mainstream media. But that's not enough. 95% control of the narrative is not enough. They need 100%. And they will always play the victim. Just like Black Lives Matter repeatedly said, no one will listen to us. No one talks about our message. Everyone was talking about it. But that wasn't enough. They always come from a position of authority where all of the institutions, or almost all of them, have their back and constantly play the victim. Until they have 100% control of the narrative, they will claim to be the victims. And that's what they're doing now. In fact, in many ways, Elon Musk, if he would follow through, so far I have no complaints, but I'm always skeptical of anyone. But if he does follow through with trying his best to make Twitter a free speech platform, that's more damaging to the Democratic Party and the establishment left and the bootlicking authoritarians than losing the midterm elections. That's how important control of the public sphere of information is. And that's why they're freaking out. That's exactly what's happening. They're not freaking out because they're afraid they'll get censored. They're freaking out because they're afraid I won't. Or Trump won't. Or Alex Berenson won't. Or Ben Shapiro won't. Or Jordan Peterson won't. That's why they're freaking out. Now on to Elon specifically. I have mixed feelings. First, I put no faith in any human, even myself to an extent. I always assume that humans are fallible and will screw something up. History's undefeated on that, pretty much. But that doesn't mean people can't do net good. Elon probably shares very little of my ideology with me as far as my political beliefs. He seems like a center leftist. But on this particular issue that matters most, that Elon will have control over, which is, should this public sphere be used for free speech? Perhaps we're in agreement. Perhaps not. Perhaps Elon is a shrewd businessman who sees an opportunity to make a buck by playing sides against each other. It could be. But I'm not going to sit here and be black-pilled and say nothing will ever change. Maybe that's true, but I'm not going to live my life under that assumption. In the words of the great Steve Rinella, from the show Meat Eater, I talk about this quote a lot. It's really inspired me. He's talking about deer hunting, and he says, I'm pessimistic with my mind, but optimistic with my feet. In other words, in his head, he's like, I'm not going to get this deer. But he keeps moving. He keeps acting as if he will. Because if you don't act as if you will, and you just sit there and say, fine, I'm done, I won't get a deer, then you won't. So even if you're thinking you won't, you still act as if you will. That's how I'm going to go forward. King says he said he's not going to be 100% free speech. What is 100% free speech? Would I blame him if he's censoring people that are like, I want to shoot and kill these groups of people? No. You might say, well, that would be 100% free speech. True. But I don't blame that. I understand that there's a judicious amount that any reasonable person could see that, look, okay, as a business trying to make money, there are certain things that would be beyond the pale, calls to violence, that are blatant, things of that nature. But that's not what we're seeing. That's not the real problem. And I'm sure he won't be I'm very much oriented to free speech. Even claims that are grotesque, I think should be allowed to be said. So he'll fall short on that for me. But on the big thing of these platforms being used to ensure establishment narratives get pushed out and narratives counter to that establishment be censored or demonetized or shadow banned or whatever, not show up in algorithms. If he takes steps to correct that, this could be one of the most important moments in fighting back against corruption that we've seen in the past decade. It could arguably be more beneficial than the election of Donald Trump. Now, will it go that way? We shall see. I'll criticize Elon Musk when he does things I don't like. But I'll say this, before we get too much on, well, he's just a shitty businessman and he's a left-winger and this and that. All of that might be true. But right now, this man has put himself at considerable risk. His public image will be tarnished in ways that you won't be able to believe. The Biden administration will be investigating him, much like they are with Trump, and any little thing they could find because they see him as an enemy. And so for that, I respect him. Is he doing it because he really believes that it's something to help the country and he really cares about free speech? Or is he doing it because he thinks that it'll personally benefit himself? I don't know, and it doesn't matter to me. Maybe he is a fraud. I don't know. But the devil I know was the previous group that owned Twitter, right? I know what they were. So I'm not saying that I'm putting my faith in Elon Musk. Everything's great. But I also think there's a danger in being so black-pilled that you're just morose about everything. I'm not one to celebrate anyone losing their job. But there are certain times where I think it's necessary and it's okay to celebrate because of your like of something. For example, Matt Canada, the Steelers offensive coordinator, needs fired. Do I think Matt Canada is a terrible person and I want to see him and his family struggle to survive? No, I don't know anything about the man. But he's really bad at his job and a football team that I like suffering because of it. Similarly, I couldn't tell you shit about Parag, the CEO, or Vija as individuals. Maybe they have very nice families and they're taking care of children, and I certainly don't want to see children go without money. But something tells me in the positions they're in, with the connections they have, they'll be just fine financially. I don't think they'll be begging for any meals soon. And they were some of the most hateful, damaging people in the way that they ran this platform. At least for the things you could see. They hated free speech. They used their platform as a political tool, as a political campaign to benefit particularly the Democrats, but the establishment in general. They censored people like me, and not just Twitter, but places like YouTube that routinely give me strikes, places like Twitch where you can't say what you want, places like Discord where my channel had to be removed, etc. Enough. Hey, what's up, Rachel? Deep skepticism is understandable. But tonight, Vija's out and Parag's out, and I laugh at that shit. You should never put your faith in any human. Faith reserved for your God, for your religion. You know, it's similar. What if we have a red wave in 2022 here in the midterms? What if we end up with, 270 House seats and 53, 54 Senate seats? On one hand, you might say, I'm skeptical. They won't change anything, and they probably won't. But on the other hand, you have to allow for some joy. What if there's a blue wave in 2022? Well, that would be terrible. Where's my favorite place to get food at 2 a.m.? Sheetz. If you don't know what Sheetz is, you're missing out. Wawa, not in Philly anymore. They're leaving Philly. So yeah, at the end of the day, I'll still be skeptical that Elon Musk is going to be this great savior that will save everything. I'm skeptical of that. But this is at least a step that's possibly in a positive direction. And I'm celebrating that tonight. And remember, the most important thing to remember is the Democrats that are freaking out aren't freaking out because they're afraid they'll be censored. They're freaking out because they're afraid they won't be able to censor you. And that shows you who the real anti-democratic people are and who the real people that know that their ideas can't stand up to scrutiny are. I talk to people all the time. I don't want these horrible left-wingers censored. I want them out there talking because the more they talk, the better my side looks. So, let's see if we can find any other funny quotes. Also, we'll go till 11 here, all right? 11 o'clock, I'm done. Let me be a jerk here at the end. Where are you all watching me? Right now I got 45 people watching on Twitch. Thank you. 18 people watching on YouTube. Thank you very much. And 1 person watching on D Live. Thank you very much. But does anyone know where the best place to watch me is? Comfy.Stream. Let me make a pitch to you for Comfy.Stream for a minute. 1, to my recollection of watching people simulcast on places like YouTube and Comfy.Stream, the image quality and sound quality is, if not superior, then equal on Comfy.Stream. Second, it's ran by people that are free speech advocates. You won't have to worry about them. You could go on their channel and talk shit on them all day, and they will allow you to stay, right? I could go on right now and talk about Andrew Wilson and BPF and how his ideas are shit and that, and he'll just be like, I think Rob's an idiot, I disagree. Oh, well, anyways, have a good time streaming on Comfy. We should all support people that put their money where their mouth are and started a free speech platform. Third, any place you donate money to me, if you want to donate to me, whether it be Twitch, whether it be YouTube, whether it be straight through PayPal, I get less of a percentage of that money by far than I'll get at Comfy.Stream. I forget the exact percentage, but I get something like 93, 94% of all the money you donate comes to me through Comfy. Whereas on somewhere like Twitch, I get like 70%. So on Comfy, I get way more. And that other percentage, if you donate to Twitch, you got 25% of the money you donate is going to Jeff Bezos to pump into the Washington Post to be one of the biggest mouthpieces for the establishment and the CIA and their corruption. The money that's going towards the people that run Comfy are going to people that probably you agree with politically. They're conservative. And more importantly than that, they are people that believe in free speech. And you have the opportunity to get on the ground level and help what could be sort of the platform and the method that we see going forward and how to fight back against this free speech battle, which is independent people putting their money where their mouth is and growing a community organically. Andrew says, you know what I mean too much? I say shit too much. One debate, I kept saying in reality. I said it like 15 times. It happens when you're talking. Chris goes watching on YouTube, the superior platform. I disagree. Would you let Patriots Win sponsor you? I don't know who Patriots Win is. I did some sponsors. I just don't know what I bring to sponsors, you know. Also, I'd be remiss. You might say, yes, but Rob, if you're streaming on Comfy and if you're watching me on Comfy, then none of your chats will show up here. Got you covered. Make it a little bigger. There you go. There's Rachel chatting on Comfy, saying she's going to be super skeptical. Crisco John. What's up, Ice P? Thank you all so much. Thank you, Crisco. Look, there's other reasons that you should prefer Comfy. There are great people that are streaming there. Andrew has taken sort of people that he trusts. There's even left-wingers that are on there streaming, right? But people he trusts. He didn't go out and get like a huge name like that's going to dominate it. He took people that are sort of organic streamers that he thinks will do well on the platform. So you'll be able to watch those people on there. And this is a technology that they paid for and built through the ground up. They tell Comfy they need more boob channels. Talk to Rachel. She's there. Her husband runs it. I'm assuming both of them are against boob channels, though. I certainly am not a fan. But if only there were more places on the internet to see women with their bare chest. Do I read chat in Comfy? Yes. It's there now. You can see it's up there on the left, so everyone could read it. You don't see channels that are live as a news site. Yes, it is a news site. I'm the only channel that's live right now on Comfy. The last reason to join Comfy is this. I will be doing exclusive content to Comfy.Stream, which means there will be videos that you could only see there. There'll be live streams that you can only see there because I could talk about whatever I want there. Right now, if I want to talk about the 2020 election, I'll get censored from YouTube. And as soon as I'm done with every live stream I do on YouTube, I now have to delete it or set it to private because I get mass reported. If I'm on Twitch, I can't talk about transgender and athletics or genital surgeries and things like that because I'll get banned by the Keffels Brigade. But I can say whatever the fuck I want in Comfy. And eventually, I will be banned from YouTube. I've been close many, many times. With if you get 3 community strikes in 90 days, you're gone. I've had 1 or 2 strikes for the past 2 years. No, there's not a lot of content right now. That's true. They're working out the bugs and stuff, getting the site up and running. But what you'll see is I'll be streaming there. So the normal times you find me, you'll be able to watch me on Comfy. And what you'll see is I'll talk to Andrew. We'll try to get a schedule set up. I know the Crucible streams quite regularly. The rest of the people that are on there, we'll try to get a schedule set up. Hell, maybe we'll even try to stagger it. So maybe the Crucible's starting at 10 o'clock. So I'll stream 8 to 10 and then the Crucible's on 10 to 12. We'll see. But do I think Parler will grow or fizzle with e-buying it? I don't know. It's difficult for like places that you have this initial push. I feel like when you have a startup like that, and how well you do in that initial push, I think goes a long way. So your first year or so, Parler it's been around. So we'll see. Aircraft Sparky says Andrew needs to get me on there. It might happen. I'll talk to him. Absolutely, Aircraft. So. But I'm telling you, this is the wave of the future. Oh, there's Andrew. He's on there now. Yeah, there's like one of the things, like as a streamer, there's so much that I like about Comfy. Like, for example, remember when I was working with Odyssey, when I worked with Lauren Southern to Odyssey? Odyssey's so weird to live stream to. Like, you have to have a different, like, I don't know, it's not a different stream key, but you have to have like a different stream title or something. It's very weird. It's hard to explain. Every time you stream, I found it odd. So I had a bunch of technical questions because I'm a boomer. I don't know what the hell's going on with the tech. And I could never get any response. With Comfy, I could call any time. And I get someone call me back within 10 minutes to talk to me one-on-one. To be like, okay, get to your computer. I'll walk you through this right now. So. Rumble's not bad, but Rumble, here's the thing with Rumble, right? I have high hopes for Rumble. I do. But Rumble is not live stream friendly. You have to pay to live stream on Rumble, right? Comfy is set up first and foremost to be a live stream platform. They just added the ability to put replays on, which I will be taking advantage of. So when I do short form videos, I'm going to put them on Comfy. Yeah, there you go. Rachel says she'd like to see you on there, Sparky, so... Oh, you don't have to pay if you have 100 followers? No, I didn't know that. But yeah, I'm sure if Rachel would like to see you on there, Sparky, if you reach out to BPF, Andrew, I'm sure that maybe the next wave they have of adding people. I don't speak for them for shit. Let's be clear about that. I have no, I just happen to know and like Andrew. That's it. So I don't have any connections to running it or anything, but Sparky is a good dude. I agree. He crushed me on the weight loss competition, the bastard. Though in fairness, I lost 6 pounds in 2 months. I thought that was reasonable. Sparky lost like 34. I mean, what the hell? When am I going to start streaming Pokemon Let's Play? I don't know. I was planning on getting to that here. You know, just missed. Creasco, you always got the best suggestions for streams. Let's get this set up a little better. There we go. That's nice. Odyssey will prevail one day. Maybe. Rakita Law has gone to Rumble exclusively. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to shit on Rumble. I'm not. That's not what I'm here to do. All I'll say is this. Comfy built their shit from the ground up. They're not reliant on anything else. They reached out to me. They're ran by people that I know are good people and that I know I could trust. They give me more money than I would get on places like Rumble. And it's something that we should all celebrate, that someone that are free speech advocates. I sit around and piss and moan like, oh, I got struck again on YouTube. Andrew went out and did something about it. Spent his own money, risking his own money, to create a platform, not just for him, not just for people that agree with him. Rob, can you do the director editions till Gen 5? Not the director editions that kind of... I got you, yeah. Any insight on Pedro not being on the Crucible lately? Andrew's watching on Comfy. Ask him. I don't know anything about it. The second to last debate I did on the Crucible was with Pedro and Zen. So maybe he's busy. Maybe he's taking a step back. I have no clue. You'd have to ask Andrew. But, Elon Musk buying Twitter, I mean, that's basically my big take on the whole thing, which is I'm skeptical, but I'm willing to celebrate when the victories like him firing the CEO and stuff. And one thing it definitely does, this is the same with the election of Trump. It's the same thing. Why did I support the election of Trump, right? 2 reasons. The first reason was I knew the election of a potential outsider would force the corrupt establishment to out themselves in a public way in ways we've never seen. And that happened. Is there any doubt now that the mainstream media is just a propagandist mouthpiece for the establishment? That all of these executive agencies are just part of this same establishment? That there are corrupt people at the top of the Republican Party that are no different than the corrupt people at the top of the Democratic Party? That they'll go to any lengths in order to destroy someone they see as a potential outsider? Pedro's got some personal stuff going on. He'll be back soon. There's no rift. Good. Well, not good. He's going through personal stuff. I'll be praying for him. But I assume there was no rift. Pedro's a great guy. And then the second reason I voted for Trump, it would out that corruption and then potentially he would do something about it. He didn't. He failed at that. In fact, in many ways, now that the corruption's out in the open and the people weren't punished, they're becoming even more brazen. That's similarly what could happen with Twitter. Musk buying it, already the first part's happening. They're outing themselves. The people that are furious are outing themselves for how corrupt they really are. How dare you restrict our ability to censor people we disagree with? Now we'll see if Musk follows through. But already it's had the benefit of outing those people. Yeah, Comfy is getting better every day. I totally agree. Elon Musk companies suck at the government teat just to change of face. Maybe. It's still not good. If, for example, if Twitter starts getting government money, I don't think that's a good thing. But if they stop censoring conservative politicians and conservative ideas, it would still be a net benefit. It doesn't mean it's perfect. Yeah, no problem, old Scotty. All right, we got 15 minutes. Anyone want to hear anything specific? There we go. Thank you. For those of you that went over to Comfy.Stream. Listen, let me make one more pitch for Comfy. I'm not going to bullshit you here. I am not any better than anyone, right? I'll sit here and piss and moan about YouTube and Twitch. If I'm in my car, right, and there's nothing good on the radio, you know what I use when I'm just driving? I put on YouTube and I put on a chess video. Or I put on Judge Judy on YouTube. Or I put on old wrestling videos, like 1990s wrestling, all on YouTube. There I am using the very product that I'm saying, oh, this product's screwing me over. because there's an ease of use. The library of shit that you could watch on YouTube is so expansive. It's just easy to use. The technology is smooth. The breadth of stuff they have there is huge. And so it's easy to be like, it sucks and it's tough to move on to another platform. It is. I'm not saying never use YouTube again, by the way, if you go over and watch me on Comfy. But it just sucks. Who the hell wants to remember another password and, have to go to another site to watch someone? But that's what's great is Comfy is taking everyone's suggestions, not just the creators, but the people that are watching, to make the experience better, at least for live streams starting right now. They just added emojis, for example. So the idea is not just to be YouTube, it's to be better than YouTube, to make it easier for both streamers and a better experience for the people watching. Are they there yet? No, I think they would admit that. But it's a process. And the more that we're involved, the more that people are there and using it, the better that it'll eventually become. Yeah, the chess drama is crazy. So I'm not saying you have to go over to Comfy, but I would really appreciate it. And like I said, what ends up happening with streamers like me, I'm not Kanye, right? I'm not Rakita Law even, right? Here's the truth. Someday, those of you that are watching me on YouTube will be like, what happened to that Rob guy? I haven't seen him do videos for a while. And you know what happened to me? I got banned 4 months ago. And you just didn't know. That will not happen if you're on Comfy. If I'm not there for 4 months, you'll know why, because I'll tell you on Comfy. I had something come up, life issues, things like that. But you don't have to worry, well, maybe Comfy just banned Rob and that's it. It's not going to happen. Maybe they'll eventually get into gaming. Again, those are suggestions for Andrew, for Rachel, for the people that are, and you don't have to worry, by the way, like I've seen, this is no bullshit. Sparky, I see that you're still on Twitch. You'll know this, I believe. You were around for this. Eric, one of the people that have helped my channel the most is my friend Aftershock. At one time I was streaming against these lefties, like these radical lefties, and someone comes into my chat and they just start baiting, right, with the trans stuff. These are the pronouns I demand, blah, 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 blah. And Aftershock said something like, bullshit, I'm not going to use those pronouns or whatever. Within like 30 seconds, banned for 2 weeks on Twitch. You're not going to have to worry about that shit happening at Comfy. That someone's going to goad you and then you end up getting banned from the whole site. Now, they don't want like the blatant, ridiculous racism of people just coming and shouting the N-word and that bullshit. Screw all that shit. But beyond that, you could say shit that you think, I think we should bomb this country. I think, this person at streamer is a piece of shit. No one's going to ban you for that stuff. We might disagree. You might say that's fucked up. You're stupid. But Ankar that was on here earlier, right? And he's like, I'm going to brigade this person and that. I don't want you saying that shit on Twitch. I'll still call you out for saying that shit on Comfy. I think it's a terrible idea. But I don't have to worry I'm going to lose my channel on Comfy because people are suggesting brigading. I do have to worry about that in Twitch. So you can't say that shit. Don't get me wrong. It's bad to say that shit anyways, but that's right, McLinebacker. He was on the free Aftershock train before it was cool. Remember we got the other Aftershock, not Aftershock, who was better than Aftershock in every way? I miss not Aftershock. I wish I knew what happened to him. Damn, he was smart and witty and I assume good looking. You could say Ben Shapiro's controlled opposition. You could say that. Ah, boy. So, yeah, eventually my plan is I'm not going to leave YouTube or Twitch anytime soon. I'm not. I am going to start gradually doing exclusive content to Comfy. And eventually I'll get kicked off these platforms anyways, but not Aftershock Dive saving the country. He's undercover right now. Him and trans-positive Rob are somewhere saving the world, I assume. So, all right, 9 minutes left. Any specific questions? I will be done at 11. Also, I'm very excited if you were joining late. I got my new phone today. My old phone was shitting out on me, so I got an iPhone 14 Pro. And I just found out today that I can actually live stream through Restream, so it will show up on Comfy, as well as YouTube, Twitch, D Live, and Twitter. And I can do that on my phone. And actually, the new phone, the audio and visual quality is pretty good on it. So thank you, Vaughn. I'm glad I convinced you, man. Yeah, we'll see you over there. Talk about my Pokemon Let's Play. I don't know what the fuck Pokemon Let's Play is, Crisco. I know what Pokemon Red and Blue is. Maybe Gold and Silver I played. Did I look at the suggestion in my YouTube poll? I've not. I put it up earlier today, but I haven't looked at it yet. But I did put a poll up on YouTube. And one of the things I'm going to do, which Andrew told me it's a really good idea, when I do a video that's exclusive to Comfy, I'm going to put on my community tab in YouTube, check out this link to this exclusive video on Comfy. So right now I have a poll up in my community tab. 24 votes. 71% say I should do a weekly exclusive video to Comfy. That's awesome. Let's read the suggestion. Slim, you should do like Salty Cracker and start a stream on YouTube and finish on Comfy. Try pulling pool people over during the stream. That's not a bad idea. Maybe that's what I'll start trying to do. So I'll do the first hour and a half or hour on YouTube and Twitch, and then the second hour will be exclusively on Comfy. Do I have anything to say to the people that think that fascism is a good way to fight lefties? It depends on what you mean by fascism. Right? Do I think if I say fascism like as in the Nazis, like gassing people? Of course not. I think violence is deplorable. Political violence is deplorable. It's not necessary. It's not strategic. It's immoral. Now, fascism in the sense of, do I think that authoritarianism? Maybe in some slight senses. But still, I want to follow a rule of law. But I have no problem saying that I think there needs to be immediate criminal investigations to a litany of left-wing people, establishment, institutions, like those running the FBI, people that lied about the Russiagate shit like Adam Schiff. But to me, that's not fascism. So fascism is one of those words that's massively overused. For example, I don't think that we should just lock up nonviolent lefties for the fuck of it. No, I don't. At all. That's what they're doing. And I think to some extent, the tools that they're using against us should be used against them, but not that. Tools like, you want to have investigations based on anything? Cool, we'll do those investigations. But you still don't lock people up for nothing. Because once you set that precedent, well, they did it to us, we could do it to them. Okay. Guess what happens when they get back in charge? Any other questions? We have 5 minutes left. Does anyone want to see someone specifically rated? I know I just told you all not to be watching me on Twitch, watch me on Comfy. But there's Pete the Patriot. Let's rate him tonight. Good guy. If you guys don't know Pete the Patriot, it's kind of funny. It's odd the sort of different communities you get on different platforms. So conservatives on Twitch are a different group than conservatives on YouTube. Pete the Patriot's someone that streamed as long as I have, live streamed on YouTube. Pretty decent YouTube community. Twitch you don't hear from him. He's not doing the panels and stuff, but he's a good guy. I think you guys would like him. Real good guy. I think he's a veteran. Just really good guy. So if you're on Twitch, we'll raid PTP, little Pete the Patriot, good guy. I got from Pete, I think I have it here somewhere. I've showed this before. Maybe I don't have it now. Well, shit. 1 second. I don't know where I put it. That's a bummer. It's probably up in my office. Downstairs. Well, Pete, I won a contest on Pete's channel, and I won a piece of barbed wire from the DMZ in North Korea. or in between the Koreas. So I thought that was cool. So, all right. So plan for tomorrow night. Thank you for all the people that support me in any way whatsoever. Thank you especially to those that went over to Comfy tonight. Consider checking out those other channels. If you're bored and you're sitting at home, just check out if someone's live streaming to Comfy. They're going to be adding people. The people that are there are going to start streaming more. So, and if you have any opinions, you could let me know. Or if you have, Andrew Wilson, Big Papa Fascist, if you have his like Twitter info or anything, or want to at him or at the Crucible or comment on the Crucible's page or in their chat in the Crucible, any suggestions you have or anything, I'm sure they would be absolutely excited to hear that. So let's help that community grow. Not just because we're right-wingers, some of us aren't, but because we're free speech people, and maybe the next time I debate Destiny, I won't have to say, oh, I can't do it on Twitch and I got to watch what I say because I'm on YouTube. I can say whatever the fuck I want because I don't have to be on Twitch when I'm debating him. I'm like, what's your IP says? Gonna need more boob channels if they want to get huge. You could be right, which is horrible, but all right. Enjoy this raid of Pete the Patriot. Thank you also. Oh, I forgot to tell you all. Tomorrow, I'm going to have a great day. I should be streaming tomorrow night around 9 p.m. Eastern. I don't have any particular plans, and it'll probably be an impromptu stream because I'm going to be busy. I'm taking Hankster to the zoo with my wife and her sister, so we're going to the Pittsburgh Zoo tomorrow. It should be a lot of fun. I'm very excited. We've had him up to the Erie Zoo, which is a smaller zoo. Tomorrow, the Pittsburgh Zoo is going to be cool. There's an aquarium there, and Hank's like a big fan of fish. So I'm very excited. It'll be his first opportunity to see, some bigger fish, sharks, whales, dolphins, and things like that. So I'm pumped. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully I'll be in a good mood and got some good stories to tell you about the Hank man at the zoo. He's almost 2. He'll be 2 here in January. So, by the way, he's doing great with his leg too. He's getting better. He's walking on it more. So, all right. Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate you all. Enjoy this raid of Pete the Patriot. And as always, consider giving him a follow, by the way. I think Pete would really appreciate it. He's a good guy. Well, shit. There what happened. Raid has been created. Sometimes it does this. It creates the raid and then it doesn't show up. Oh, piss. See? Twitch isn't perfect. No, Pete's not weird at all. How do I cancel a raid? Does anyone know how to cancel a raid? Damn it. That's going to screw up. I swear to God, it does this sometimes. It infuriates me. I already have a raid in progress. Right. All right, well, it'll raid if it does. I don't know. Hopefully it raids them. I don't know what to say, so I apologize. I didn't do anything. It's it. So we'll see you all soon. As always, have a good one.